realizing that like love is finite. Every marriage ends. They end in death or divorce. They all end.
It's crazy that you've been on all the big podcasts. You've been on a lot of big platforms.
Yeah.
And no one has really touched on this element of psychedelics.
It's crazy.
And plant medicine and how instrumental it's been in your own
It's
life.
a huge piece of my life.
Psychedelics could potentially save marriages.
I believe that. If you thought about the fact that you have a finite amount of time here, you wouldn't give a shit about the incredibly stupid things that people are constantly trying to make you think about.
At what point in the marriage
Yeah.
did you know this was headed for divorce? And almost 90% of them said that they knew before they even got married that they were going to get divorced.
Yeah. And I told her about my sons and like how great they were doing. And I told her how happy I was, how good work was. Like I just talked to her. Like I just didn't worry about figuring it out.
How have you seen porn destroy marriages and relationships?
Yeah, so I think my own personal human experience of porn is...
How do you define intimacy? And as men, how can we do a better job of cultivating a better intimate connection with our partner?
I believe in monogamy, but the form of monogamy I believe in is...
All right, today's podcast episode is one of the most powerful podcasts that I've ever recorded. I had the honor of sitting down with James Sexton for over 3 hours. And James is one of the most sought after divorce attorneys in the world, a man who has spent decades inside the deepest, most intimate, and often most broken dynamics of human relationships. He's seen love at its highest and at its absolute lowest. But what makes this conversation so different is that we did not stay on the surface. We went to places that James has never publicly gone before. We talked about the real raw impact that psychedelics has had on his life. We explored how religion, different belief systems, different frameworks can either strengthen or destroy a marriage. And we unpacked the patterns that cause people to fall in love and the patterns that almost guarantee that they'll fall apart. This isn't just a conversation about relationships. This is a conversation about truth and transformation. And there's multiple moments in this episode where I just sat back and thought, wow, I've never heard James share anything like this before. And he's been on all the biggest podcasts, but this 3-hour deep dive, I think, is going to awaken so many people. And if you're in a relationship, or if you want to be in a relationship, or if you're just trying to understand why things haven't worked out in the past, please make sure to listen to this one all the way through. Buckle up. You're in for a ride. Let's get into it with the one and only James Sexton. Jim Sexton, my brother. My intention for this podcast is really just to make deep, passionate love to the present moment with you. Is that cool?
I love it. We're going to have a threesome with the moment.
Let's do it.
I love it.
So I was about to just tell you right now, but like our root story, our beginning story of how I discovered you and how we initially connected, I'll never forget it, bro.
It's so funny because I've forgotten it. I feel like I've known you for a very long time, and I feel like you're like a brother to me.
Yeah.
And I have no recollection of how we started our connection, but I remember feeling it was like instantaneous. Like you were just someone that I was like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be like, have this friendship.
Yeah. So it was probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I had just gotten out of a relationship and was processing a lot of feelings and emotions. And I had a conversation with my brother. He's like, hey, have you ever listened to Lex Fridman's podcast? And I was like, not really. I see they're like 3 or 4 hours long. Like, that's just a lot of time to invest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, I went to Lex Fridman's podcast. I saw yours was the most recent one. And I was like, it's 3 hours. Never heard of this James Sexton guy. Right. And whatever intuitive belief it was that drove me to click play. And I remember just listening straight through. And I was just like, this dude is a fucking legend. Like, he really is so authentic. He just tells it how it is. And we could pull this up. But like, I sent you a DM on Instagram after that. I slid in your DMs.
Okay.
I think you had 16.1K followers on Instagram.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
It was like 16,000. It was before you really started,
before it blew up.
Yeah. And here we are, like three years later, bro.
And I remember getting a message from you, and there was a warmth that even came through the message that felt very real to me. And I remember, like, there was just a warmth to you of, like, I think you called me brother, and I call people brother a lot. Like, I call men brother a lot. And apparently it's also like a very popular thing, like in Muslim culture, to call someone brother. But I don't know, I tend to, when someone's like, hey brother, how you doing? Like, I always love that, because like this sense that like men are brothers and that we have a brotherhood and that we're looking out for each other. And so I think you used the term like brother, I just was this. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is such a warm connection. And you looked like, you know, hey, this guy's probably like in his 20s or whatever. And my sons are close to that age. And I remember thinking like, oh, you know, like this is a person who like genuinely seems open and wants to like be part of like, you know, my message, and he's interested in. I just remember our first interactions, we connected on WhatsApp, and I think you left me like some voice memos.
Yeah.
And your voice was so excited and warm that I could not help but like sort of smile, and like I was like, oh, this guy's great. But then it's very funny because there's probably a lesson for people to learn when selling things, although we've never tried to sell each other anything. There's this feeling when someone approaches you with the, oh yeah, of course we're friends, that you kind of go, oh, okay, like I guess we're friends. And I think you and I both just exuded that energy to each other and made it true. And then it was like we were and then I remember the first time we got together in person, just feeling like, it was like seeing like a long lost friend. And it was like the warmth of it. And even today, like walking in, it was like, oh man, like, and it's very funny to me. Like, I feel like I've known you for a very long time. And I've also really enjoyed watching your journey and watching you, you know, kind of move through your life, your culture, your faith, your journey as a man and as a human being. And I enjoy being part of that, like, and I think both as an observer and friend, and also as, you know, someone whose opinion you value. I take that seriously. So, and I value your opinion. I mean, you've given me some real insights too.
I appreciate that, and we'll have to go back.
I would love to.
I want to see the intro DM.
It must be hilarious.
There's also a time where I was doing an Instagram live, and you randomly, like, out of nowhere jumped into live. I was like, wait, is this for real? Like, like Jim Sexton.
So excited.
I was so excited. And then you were like singing my praises. I was like, this guy's just a kind soul, like super real. And that's hard to come by. It's like those genuine friendships where it's not transactional.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, back in that space, I was deeply in the psychedelic and mushroom space. Yeah. And that's something that we initially connected on.
Yeah, deeply. Yeah.
And
I liked the way you were approaching it and talking about it, because it's something that is so formative to who I am, and it's so important to who I am. And I liked the fact that you were speaking of it with a warmth and depth and seriousness, but also a playfulness. And that you were someone who was exuding a healthy, positive, masculine energy that was also acknowledging like the value in your own development of plant medicine. And I thought that was like a really cool and important message, which is one of the reasons why I was very quick to maintain this connection, because I was like, this is a voice I want to amplify. This is an energy I think needs to be in the world, particularly for men who I think are in crisis.
Yeah.
And that's why I would like repost a lot of things you would post, and I would, you know, try to like steer people in your direction, because I thought like, oh, this is a really, and I still think it's an important message. And again, I think you're like me in the sense that our worldview is shaped by so many almost like contrary things, you know, like we're kind of a perfect union of contrary things. Like there's religion and the role it plays in our personal history. There's plant medicine, particularly mushrooms and psilocybin. There's our own relationship journeys and struggles. Like there's so much stuff there that overlaps. And I think that's a beautiful thing when you find people that have that perfect union of contrary things, you know.
It's crazy that you've been on all the big podcasts. You've been on a lot of big platforms. And no one has really touched on this element of psychedelics.
It's crazy.
And plant medicine and how instrumental it's been in your own life.
It's a huge piece of my life, and it's a huge piece of my development as a human being and my continued journey. And it's something I've always been open about, but it's something people are afraid to spend too much time talking about. I don't know if it's a demonetization thing, or if it's that it's controversial. I don't think it should be. Or if people just assume it's something that we're still sort of in the closet about as human beings, as a successful professional. But I've always been very, very open about my history of substances in general. I mean, substance use in general. And I'm open about growing up in an alcoholic household. I'm open about the feeling that I've always had of avoidance of alcohol because of that. But I've also been very open about the fact that, my core spirituality was born of an LSD experience when I was 15 years old.
Really? And that helped awaken different aspects of you?
It actually is. It was, I think, the most formative experience of my life. I was about 15.
And that's what, 35 years ago?
Yeah, I'm 53. So it was a long time ago.
38 years ago, that experience with LSD is still the most formidable experience.
It was the most formative experience of my life, yeah. Yeah, and it shaped every aspect of my worldview. You can draw a straight line to that experience in every aspect of my life. I was 15. A friend of mine got some blotter acid that was going around. The Grateful Dead were touring a lot at the time, and there was acid that had Woodstock, the bird from Snoopy, on it. So it was called Woodstock acid. And we went into the Bear Mountain State Park in Rockland County, right over the bridge. And we had a boombox with a cassette player in it, and we had Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, the album. And we just ate a hit of acid each, and we just sort of were waiting for the onset of this thing. And I remember waiting for a freight train is going to hit my consciousness in some way. I was a little scared, but it was the hubris of being a teenager. And I just remember, as I could sort of feel myself moving into what I now realize was a non-ordinary state of consciousness, I remember just suddenly feeling a very powerful sense of connection that I'd never felt before.
A sense of oneness.
Of oneness, of unity, of seeing behind something. And I was so young that I don't think I'd spent enough time in an ordinary state of consciousness to be able to really see the difference between the two. But I remember having a realization in that moment that was so banal, so plain, so just oh, this glass is here and it's full of water. It was just, oh, that's a thing. And the feeling I had, or the knowledge, I wouldn't even call it a feeling, it was just knowledge, oh, this is a glass and it's filled with water. I remember sitting in the park and Shine On You Crazy Diamond was playing on the album. And I just remember thinking, oh, everything is one thing. It's just energy. And that death is an illusion. It's a change of state. There's nothing to be afraid of. And there is something underneath all of this that loves us and wants us to be buoyant and well. And there's nothing to ever be afraid of, that we're all one consciousness that can only experience itself subjectively, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And I remember thinking,
wow,
oh, good. One less thing to think about. That's great. I don't have to be afraid of death ever again. I don't have to be afraid of that I'm alone ever again. I'm part of everything and everything's part of me, and I don't ever have to worry about that ever again. That never went away. 53 years old now, it was 15 at the time, never went away for a minute. And
wow.
Humorously enough, I had that experience, and then maybe about 2 or 3 years later, I was in college. I didn't ever do LSD again. I didn't really do drugs regularly because I came from a household where there had been substance use disorder in the form of my father's alcoholism. And I remember I was in college, so a few years later, and one of my roommates got mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. And he said, oh, do you want to eat some mushrooms? And I was like, I haven't really done, a psychedelic in a while. I've never done mushrooms, but okay. I remember I ate like a couple of grams of mushrooms. And I remember having a very similar kind of an experience, maybe a little less intense.
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, oh, yeah, I've seen this movie before. Like, it's really great, but like I've seen it, so I don't have to keep watching it over and over again. And I just remember, and then I didn't have any psychedelics of any kind until about 4 years ago.
And that was with mushrooms.
So I went
again.
on a break of about 30 years or so. Yeah, one of the lawyers who works for me, who is a bit of a psychonaut, said to me, oh, I've got these really good mushrooms. I don't know if you ever want to do any mushrooms. I'm like, God, I haven't done them in 30 years, but yeah, why not? That'd be fun. And I'll it has been so long, and now I'm an adult. It's a silly analogy, but when I was a young man, I used to read a ton. I still do. But we grew up poor, so the library was the only place I could leave and have lots of stuff because it was free. So I read every Stephen King book when I was an early teenager. And a few years ago, I thought, I haven't read those books in 30 plus years. And so I read them again as an adult. And it was a really different experience, because if you read The Shining when you're a teenager, you relate to the kid who's afraid of his father. But when you read it as an adult who's had children, you read it more, you understand the father's point of view in a different way. And so I thought, oh, maybe it'll be like that. If I bring my adult, late middle-aged self to this equation, it'll be different. And it was the same in some ways, and it was very different in other ways. But it turned the volume up again on something that had been quiet for a very long time in me, because I'd been so caught up in building my professional life and being successful and raising my sons into adulthood. And now they were adults at that point. Now they're 29 and 26, but 4 years ago they were a little bit younger, but they were close to adulthood. And I just remember feeling like, oh, this is the same beautiful experience and this deep experience. But it's also different, because I'm very different and I'm in a different stage in life. So it woke back up in me this sense of wanting to be connected to that. And it became something that became more regularly a part of my journey. And after some casual, psilocybin use specifically, which I always took seriously and in a ceremonial kind of way, I started with at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, going to a therapeutic psilocybin retreat in Jamaica called Myco Meditations.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique model, but an incredibly thoughtfully curated model. Justin and Mike, the two guys who own it, who I've become friends with, are just incredible people who put together an incredible team. And they are very, very focused on integration being a very thoughtful group process. And so you have a dose day, an integration day, a dose day, an integration day, a dose day, an integration day. And the integration days are 6 to 8 hours of group therapy, intense group therapy with people small group of people who've all been through this very intense, because they are not afraid to do high dose experiences. I mean, I've had an 11-gram experience.
And by the way, that just speaks to not only the efficacy, but the safety.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting, right? And it's so twisted about our healthcare system is that, first of all, people have this stigma about LSD and acid. Yeah. And I know I had this as well, that it burns a hole in your brain. Yeah. And you're the perfect antidote to that, because literally 38 years after your experience, you can recall it moment by moment, the song you're listening to, who you were with, where you were at. So if anyone has any fear about these things, I feel like this is a beautiful opportunity to kind of reprogram some of those old beliefs.
Yeah, I think those beliefs are dangerous. Because they've held back a tremendous amount of progress we could have made in understanding consciousness and understanding the value of these really ancient medicines. But I've always been careful in describing it because, I recognize that everyone's, psychological makeup and psychiatric makeup is different. I think there are people that are in, a fragile mental state. Like I happen to be someone who is physically and mentally quite healthy. And so I would not recommend a 15-year-old eat LSD. Although, I would be a terrible after school special if you were trying to, because I then went on to never have any substance use issues. I went on to be very successful academically and personally. And if anything, my journey to being a hospice volunteer was born of that experience of realizing that death isn't something to be afraid of. And that led me to become a hospice volunteer, which led me to any number of paths in my life that were really positive. And there's so much of my worldview that was born of that moment. And if I'd not taken that step, if I'd not had that non-ordinary state of consciousness experience, I don't know who I'd be right now. Maybe I would be the exact same person and I would have found the same thing some other way. But to me, that was a invitation into something that, like I said, was incredibly formative to me. So I've tried to encourage the people around me to not be buying into the conspiracy theory stuff that's out there that was promulgated in the 60s, really, because it was dangerous for people to think about something other than capitalism and sort of the government things that were being handed to people. I think Mike Posner, the musician, who's a really interesting, thoughtful person, said that, everything in this society is designed to take you out of thinking about the fact that you're going to die. Because if you thought about the fact that you have a finite amount of time here, you wouldn't give a shit about the incredibly stupid things that people are constantly trying to make you think about.
Facts.
And instead you would focus on deep connection and meaning and the meaning of life and death and why we're here and what we owe each other. And I think that my experience in the psychedelic space has and continues to help remind me of where my focus should be on something other than these very tangible things.
I think that's what makes you such an interesting person too, is this duality that you're able to hold at the same time. You're a super type A alpha male. And I think one of the reasons why people are so captivated by you and watching you and hearing you is that you're also very connected to your emotions. You can feel your empathy and passion oozing out of every cell in your body sometimes.
But I think that's why we connected, because I think you, game recognized game. I remember thinking, oh, this guy has the good looks and muscle and charisma to just be a Miami douchebag and a club promoter and make a lot of money and be driving supercars.
Might have been the move, honestly. Jim, I might have fucked that up.
That's a different path, But I remember thinking oh, he has everything you'd need to do that. And yet he's chosen this, because I think one of the things that's true of both of us and probably a lot of people who are listening, but I know it of my own experience, is I spent a lot of my 20s and 30s and even my 40s thinking about how there was this war happening in my head all the time. There was this part of me that was do what needs to be done professionally, go in and execute the mission, you're a weapon and you're being hired by people to protect them and to do what needs to be done. And, the world needs bad men because we keep the other bad men from the door. And so my job is to go in and the task is more important than my need to maintain moral purity. And so I took that very seriously. And then there's this part of me, this warring side of me, that was very emotional and sensitive and empathetic and wanted everyone to be well and wanted everyone to find love and connection and was very forgiving and open. And I remember thinking most of my life was, okay, one of these has to win the battle and one ring to rule them, which is the right one to be. And then I think it was only really in the last, and I don't think it's a coincidence, I was about to say it's only about the last 4 years. So it's right about when I got back into plant medicine. I I came to realize, oh, these are two very authentic aspects of self. Like they're not at war. They're just two really authentic parts of me that are constantly doing a dance. And I have to just embrace that dance and let it, sometimes one needs to lead and sometimes the other one needs to lead. And
yes,
the more that I learn, like you do in the psychedelic space, to let go and to breathe into it and to not see things as, oh, this is a bad trip. No, this is a challenging experience.
Yeah.
And some of the most challenging experiences I've had on psilocybin in particular were in no way pleasant. If anything, they were unpleasant at moments and frightening. And they were some of the most transformative and, in retrospect, wonderful experiences, because I am so, as you put it, like alpha and type A, that one of my hardest things to do is to let anyone take care of me, to let anyone help me. I want to do everything myself. And I don't want to be a burden. I want to do it myself. Like I eat what I kill. Like you know. And one of my very high dose experiences on retreat, I just was completely, I total ego death, total dissolution of self. I have very little recollection of much of it. But I was absolutely incapacitated. And of course, in excellent hands. Like the facilitators were taking excellent care of me and keeping me safe. But after it, I had some very frightening moments in that particular journey. And I remember being so shook up by it that I needed to like let everyone know, like, oh, I'm a little fragile right now, and can you be like gentle with me and sort of nice to me? And I thought, in looking back on it, like, oh, the medicine, like the mushroom knew, like I needed to have my legs chopped off, like so that I would ask someone to carry me.
Yeah, to actually ask for support.
And I needed that. And I have to tell you, I got better at that after. Because I realized, oh, like, because we break in relationship, but we heal in relationship too. And you don't learn how to swim by reading books about swimming. You learn how to swim in the pool. And so having that experience of being humbled by this overwhelming and frightening thing forced me to like ask for help and let people be kind to me, which then made me realize, like, oh, when you do that, people get to show up for you. And by the way, they enjoy taking care of you the way you enjoy taking care of other people.
Yeah.
So in some ways, like, you've been robbing all these people around you of the opportunity to love you the way that you love to love them. And so you're kind of being selfish by being so like, you know, oh no, I'll do it all myself. And again, that's an experience I don't think I would have come to if it wasn't for plant medicine, if it wasn't for having the courage to have a challenging experience like that. I've now come to really regard my use of psilocybin in particular as like going to the gym. Like, I don't always love it when I'm doing it, but I always like how I feel after. And I always like the effect it has on me in the long term. But sometimes when I'm at the gym, it's the greatest feeling in the world. Everything feels so good. And then there's times where I'm like, I'm just going through the motions today. Like,
1000%.
I'm not enjoying this. But again, like, all of those things are worth it, you know?
It's funny because people talk about that bad trip all the time. They're like, I don't want a bad trip. And it's always, almost always, the bad trip that teaches us the most valuable lessons and is the biggest catalyst for growth and becoming a better version of ourselves.
Yeah, Mike, one of the guys from Myco, and Mark, who is a facilitator there for many years, have both said to me that a lot of times, because, you know, once I started doing these retreats, which I do at least once a year, I'm actually going in a week or so.
Oh, wow.
I find that my therapy, my being in therapy, my routine weekly therapy, I get so much more out of it. And I remember saying to Mike in particular, he's one of the co-owners, that like, yeah, I don't know, like I feel like some of these really challenging moments I've had, my life and my therapy, so many other things are like better. And he said, yeah, you kind of have to look at it like cleaning out the basement. Like you got to get all the muck and stuff out of the basement to make room. And then that's room that you can put these beautiful things. You can put these things that make sense as to who you are. And I have to tell you, that really hit with me, because that is what it feels like. Like even when I've had challenging experiences, the feeling after is one of like, oh, I got that out. There's a catharsis, there's a cleansing, there's a purging of these things that were deeply inside of me. And it's very funny because, in talking to my own therapist, I'll often say to her, she'll see connections and things. And I'll be talking about something and she'll say, oh, did that like remind you of your mom when she used to invalidate your opinion? Or, oh, does that remind you of your dad when he was out of control? And I would go like, oh, wow. Like I never made that connection that this person at work is reminding me of this thing my mom
triggering
did.
That
and that's
emotion
why it's
from
causing
childhood.
this emotional charge. And I remember laughing and saying to my therapist, her name is Kate, I remember saying to her, like, Jesus, Kate, like, I'm 50-something years old. I'm incredibly successful in my craft. And I've written 2 books. Like, I'm still wrestling with 6-year-old Jim. Like, 6-year-old Jim is still screaming in my ear. And she's like, oh, yeah. Like, that. And that's true for everybody. Like, that's true for everybody. Like, that's nothing to even be ashamed of. Like, that's just true for all of us. We're still carrying around because those were such formative, big experiences. And often we don't reflect on them and put them in context and understand them with, like, we don't read them like we do the Stephen King novel as an adult and go, oh, yeah, that's how that must have felt for that young version of me. And maybe I need to talk to that instead of yelling at myself, and being like, why do you do that? Like, why not go like, hey, like, I hear you, 7-year-old Jim, like, and all the stuff you're saying, like, oh my gosh, like, boy, I needed you a whole bunch of times through my life, but like, I kind of don't need that voice at this moment. It's okay that you're here, but like, that's not what I need to show up right now. What I need to show up right now is like the maturity and patience of like 50-something-year-old Jim. And I have to tell you, man, I think that those challenging experiences are the setting of the table for that.
It's crazy because now like inner child healing is its own category.
Yeah.
Like there's therapists that just specialize in inner child healing. And that's usually because it's these traumas and emotional wounds from our childhood that manifest into all of these flaws and insecurities as adults. And that's oftentimes what leads people to your office.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, again, returning back to psychedelics, I feel like psychedelics, whatever it may be, when done with intention, like they remove the mask.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, intimacy and lack of intimacy is one of the root causes for disconnection and divorce.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, based on this conversation and based on my own experiences, psychedelics could potentially save marriages.
I believe that. I mean, I said it in that first interview with Lex near the end of it. That was like a 4-hour conversation with a 10-minute bathroom break. So we went all over the place. But one of the things we talked about is I said, I have this idea that if you could do like psilocybin assisted marriage counseling for marriages that were experiencing turmoil, that it would create an openness and connection and empathy that in a traditional therapeutic space isn't really present.
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe that was the great loss of the war on drugs, is that we really treated dandruff with decapitation. Like we really had an opportunity. We lost, 40, 50 years worth of potential. And it's great that it's now having a moment where Johns Hopkins and NYU are all of the institutions are now really starting to do research that's much deeper. Unfortunately, it's been so, co-opted by big pharma that a lot of that research is how do we isolate certain molecules that we can patent, rather than how do we take a plant medicine that can be easily cultivated in any number of conditions and make it widely accessible to people in a meaningful way. Instead, it's how do we turn this into something we can sell? Because ultimately capitalism is all about how do we turn you into something that we can sell or we can monetize, you know, and that's unfortunate because that when you make the monetization of something the primary goal, the product I think you get is always inferior. You know, I didn't go into my profession for the money. Like I went into it because I wanted to do the work I do. And I remember thinking, oh, if I can just make a living doing this, I'll be the happiest person in the world because I love doing it. So if I can do this and get something, people say to me all the time, even with my media work, they're like, oh, like, is it good for your practice? I'm like, my practice was so busy before. Like, I didn't need, this isn't advertising. They're like, well, why do you do it? I'm like, because I love it. Like, I love conversations. I love.
You recognize that you have a lot of wisdom and stories and experiences to share. And at the end of the day, like, that's the purpose of life, right? Is to like find our unique gift, our unique light, and exude that to the people around us.
Yeah, I never really knew, you know, my job has been primarily to be a storyteller for other people's stories. Like that's what you do when you're a courtroom lawyer in family law is I tell the story of a marriage from the point of view of my client. And I do it in a way that, of course, as an advocate, I want them to be the hero of the story and the other side potentially the villain of the story or at least a less sympathetic character. But I never really thought my story was all that compelling. I was much more interested in telling other people's stories. And then when I wrote my book in 2018, I ended up doing some media stuff just to publish it, or just because the publisher lined it up and it was part of what you do when you do a book. But I remember thinking like, oh, I'm just like, what would a divorce lawyer who's on TV sound like? And so I did Steve Harvey's show, and if you watch those early clips of me on Steve Harvey, you just really like see me trying to play a character. And then when I did Soft White Underbelly, which was about 3 years ago with Mark Liotta, I remember I just didn't, I enjoyed that show. And he invited me to come do it, and it was at the W Hotel. He was shooting in New York City. It was August, so it was really hot out. So I rolled my sleeves up and was just wearing my suit like I do every day. So I wasn't like trying to be cool or have a look that's my signature look. It's just what I wear every day. And I remember I walked in and I forgot the cameras were here. Just kind of like I've forgotten it now.
Best, yeah.
And I talked for like 2.5, 3 hours. And it's had like, I don't know, 15 million views or something. But it was I went from no media stuff to Soft White Underbelly to Lex Fridman. And I remember what was funny is I was on the subway listening to Lex Fridman talk to Andrew Huberman on his show. And I was taking the subway to Queens to do a trial. And I got off the subway and I looked in my phone, and in my Instagram DMs, I had a message from Lex.
No way.
Saying, hi, my name is Lex Fridman. I have a podcast. Past guests have included, and he listed some impressive people. And I thought to myself, is this a joke? Like I was just listening to him talking to Huberman. And I messaged him back, and right away he was like, yeah, I want you to come in. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know? And I flew to Austin like a couple weeks later. And I remember saying to him, like, oh, how did you like hear of me? Because I thought maybe one of my celebrity clients or something. And he said, Andrew Huberman and Elon Musk are both friends of his. And they had separately sent him my video on Soft White Underbelly and said, this guy's really interesting. You should have him on.
Elon though?
And he, what was funny is he said, I booked you before I'd even listened to this. Like, I just thought, well, if Andrew and Elon both like this guy, I might as well have him on. He's like, and now I've listened to it and I read your book. And like, he had really prepped. But he was like, oh yeah, I didn't know who you were when I reached out to you. Like, I didn't know anything about you. And now, I mean, Lex and I have become friends since, and he's an amazing guy. But it's a very funny thing that, like, I didn't know I was that interesting. I really didn't. I was shocked at how many people are interested in what I have to say. Like, hundreds of millions of clips of me have gone, all over the place. I can't walk down the street in New York City now that I don't get stopped. Like, 3 people on the way here stopped me and were like, oh my God, you're the divorce lawyer. I love your stuff. And like, people just stop me constantly now. And it's
how does that feel for you?
I mean, it's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't, even though I may say some things that like
may elicit responses in people. Like people seem to understand that like I'm just the messenger. Like I'm just pointing out what I see, and I'm not like theorizing about men and women, or like I think people get the sense that I'm not. I have a point of view, but I'm not trying to impose my point. My beliefs don't require you to believe them. But it's really lovely. I mean, it's lovely to have people come up to you and say, I laugh that I sometimes say, I understand why some of my celebrity clients are assholes now, because there's something about being bombed with affirmation all day where people just go like, I love you. You're amazing. And I'm like, well, what a weird thing that is, but lovely. Like to know that something I said resonated with somebody and made their life or their relationship even better for a minute is such an honor. It's a beautiful thing to have that impact. And, I've never been somebody who the praise of strangers was that important to me. Like I represent a lot of actors.
Yeah.
And one of the things you find in a lot of actors, not all, but a lot, particularly ones who came to the profession very early in their lives, like were child actors, is they really come to like the praise of strangers is really important to them.
That external validation.
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me because we're social creatures, like that's our biology. Like we're social creatures. So we want to, like our evolutionary primal brain is like, oh, if I'm isolated from the tribe, I'm going to die. Like I need to be with my people. I need to be with other people. And so that's a very normal drive in us. But the truth is that the praise of strangers shouldn't be that important to your sense of self. It should be more important to you that you have the respect of people you respect. Because to paraphrase Rick and Morty, like your boos don't mean that much to me. I've seen what you people cheer for. Like the stuff that people cheer for. And the truth is, like, if you want to conduct the orchestra, you have to turn your back on the audience. So if you want to make interesting art or you want to speak authentically, you can't really think about, like, what are people going to think about this? And are people going to like this or dislike this in the comments? Like, you just can't. You will be inauthentic. And I think the reason why I am popular, I believe, is that I'm authentic. Like the things I'm saying, I mean, they're blunt.
Yeah.
And they're real. I'm not like, that's the other thing. Like when I've represented actors, one of the weird things about it is they're so familiar to you. Like I've watched this person on Netflix, or I've seen a whole series of movies they're in, and yet I don't know them at all. Like they were reading lines on a page someone else wrote. That's not them. Like you don't know Tom Cruise. You know a bunch of characters he's played. You know he's really skilled as an actor, but you don't know him as a person. Like you even know his public persona maybe, but like you don't know him. So when you're in a room with an actor, especially one that's like famous, that you've seen their work, you realize like, oh, I don't know this person at all. But the corollary to that is people are praising them all day, but it's not
They're praising
them.
a character.
Right. They're praising their ability to do a particular thing, which is they act really well. Just like when you praise I've represented all kinds of elite athletes. And someone's like, oh, I love your, and it's like, what? You love how I catch a football. Like, it's not me. Whereas for me, as a now somewhat public figure, like when someone says, oh my God, I love your stuff, they're actually saying, I love you.
Yeah.
Like, because this is me. Like, but there's also a weird inequality happening because I don't know them at all.
Exactly.
And they know a ton about me.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to any interview with me, you're going to hear a lot about me, my life, my history. So they know there's an information imbalance there where they're really like, oh my God, I really like you so much. But how could that be anything but validating and lovely? It's never been intrusive. It's always felt really warm and beautiful to me. And, maybe once I think I was in Vegas and I was playing blackjack and somebody came up and was like, I just want to say hello. And we chatted for a minute, and then I was like, okay, I kind of wanted to go back to what I was doing. And he just stayed and kept talking to me.
There's some people that lack the self-awareness.
That was the only time I felt a little like, okay, like now because a lot of times doing what I do for a living too, people want to tell me about their divorce.
That's a lot of people too.
Yeah, and the problem is like I deal in the world of divorce for like 12 to 14 hours a day. So to do that in my free time and not get paid for it feels weird.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about like your emotions in your divorce, like then I'm in. But if you're like talking to me procedurally about how the judge did this and then they did this, I'm kind of like, guys, like that's all I do all day. Like that's not fun for me to talk about in my free time. If you want to talk about like how it felt to get divorced or what you were scared of, like, okay, now I'm in, because now we're talking about human things.
But that's again, one of the reasons, one of the main causes of people getting divorced is a lack of connection to their emotions.
Yeah.
I think it's about 70% of women that are the ones that initiate the divorce process,
It's
correct?
about 73.
And a lack of intimacy, a lack of connection seems to be a primary reason why. How do you define intimacy? And as men, how can we do a better job of cultivating a better intimate connection with our partner?
Yeah, those are the right questions to ask, boy. So intimacy, the way I define intimacy, is not sex. Intimacy, although sex is a manifestation of an intimate connection, intimacy in my use of the word is defined as the ability to be truly yourself with another person. Like that's what an intimate connection is like I can be me and you can be you. And the reason why I think that's so important is it's really, really easy for all of us to have a performative self.
Yep.
And now in our social media curated world, that's even more not only prevalent, but almost important. Like it's important to have a performative self. It's important to have this forward facing, because it used to be like if you're on TV, but now we're all on TV.
Right.
And it's in everyone's hand.
Yeah.
So now we're all this starring character in a show that we're writing. And we're curating our greatest hits and moments, and we're watching everyone else's greatest hits while living our own gag reel in real life. And so intimacy for me is about dropping the performative self. Because if I have a very defined, as most people do, performative self, whether it's myself at work, and by the way, I'm not saying having a performative self is a bad thing. You have to. Like at work, you want to have a certain self. And with your grandma, you're going to be different than when you're out with your buddies. Like it's totally normal.
Yeah.
Ideally, they're not totally opposite or antagonistic to each other, but it's totally okay to have a performative self. But the problem with a performative self being too much of a part of your personality, I think, is that you don't feel love. Like when someone loves my performative self, I can always just go, they don't know me. Like they know the character I'm playing. But like if they knew me, they wouldn't love me. Like, and I'm not religious, but I don't really believe in the devil. But if there was a devil, I think the purpose of the devil or the devil's objective would be to convince us that we're so bestial that God couldn't possibly love us. Like, and that's the trick we all play on ourselves, I think. I know I have as a human being, that I've thought, oh, if you knew me, you wouldn't love me. If you knew all the dark, fucked up shit in my head and all the awful things I've done in my worst moment as a person, and all the ways I've hurt myself and other people in life, and all the just selfishness that I have in me and all that ugliness that's in me. If you knew that, you'd run for the hills. And the truth is, that's not true. Because I love a lot of people, and I love all of the parts of them. Like I love like when I look at other people and they're impatient or overly sensitive or selfish or scared or flawed, like I love that in them. Like I love that, like I look at them and I go like, oh, of course, like don't be so hard on yourself. Like you're human, you should be human. Like don't be ashamed of that. That's part of you. I never give myself that grace. Like if someone talked to you, you're my friend. If someone talked to you in my presence, the way I talk to myself when I wake up in the morning in my head, I'd beat the shit out of them. I would be like, how dare you speak to him like that? You don't know him. You don't know who he is. You're judging the totality of who he is by his weaknesses as a person. Like that's cruel. Like why would you do that to a human being? Would you like that done to you? I don't defend myself that way. Like, so there's something about intimacy that at its core, I think, is I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this whole thing. I'm going to show you this, all the messy parts, all the heroic parts, all the weak parts, all the things I'm scared of. I'm even going to, because you can see them, like if they were blind spots, like if I could see them, they wouldn't be blind spots. So I'm going to show you all of it, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to see my blind spots, like what's behind me that I don't want to turn around and look at. And I'm going to have the courage to do that. And that's a terrifying thing to do because, you know, it really requires trust that the other person's not going to weaponize that against you. Like, I'm going to show you all my vulnerabilities, and you can weaponize them against me, and you will know all my soft targets. And you're human, so I'll lose you someday. Like 100 years from now, no one you love will be alive, and no one who loves you will be alive. They'll all be gone. So to love anything is a form of insanity because it's to accept the inevitability of losing that thing. And so, and again, I think it's worth it to love. But I think realizing that like love is finite. Every marriage ends. They end in death or divorce. They all end. So every life ends, every connection ends. Like you're born into a grave. Like the clock's ticking, you know? Yeah. And there's a finite number. Like you and I are friends and we're in this room together right here and now. There's a finite number of times I'll be in a room with you before one of us dies. I don't know the number. You don't either. But it's a number. It's there. And we'll look back someday and go, oh, it was 12, or it was 1, or it was 1,000. Like, but it's a real number. There's a finite number of times you'll see the sunset. There's a finite number of times you'll kiss a woman. Like a finite number. It might be 5, and it might be 5,000, you know, but it's a real thing. And so I think intimacy for me is about keeping that in your line of sight. Then to tie it to what you said about being in a relationship with a woman, I think that men are very task-oriented, and it's one of the best things about us.
Right.
Like, I love that part of being a man.
Yeah.
Like, I love being a problem solver. I love, like, getting into a messy thing that has, like, a bunch of, like, it's just a mess. You know, like, it's got all these prongs and problems, and, like, it's a complex problem. And I love, like, okay, let's do it. Let's take it one piece at a time. Like, let's look at this problem and let's break it down and let's figure it out. Like, I love a task. I love a task. And I really think men are wired this way. Yeah. Like, if you don't believe that, like, ask a man of any age, stage, or religion to help you open a pickle jar.
To find a solution. That's
and
what we're wired for.
And watch how excited we get.
Because it puts us in our masculine energy.
We love it.
And it's like, I get to lead you. I get to help you.
Yeah. And I get to lead you to a place where I believe you want to be. And maybe it's a place that you don't even see. Like that you're so in your moment and your feelings and you're so in the depth of your emotions as a woman that you don't even see what you really need. And I'm going to see it because I love you and I know you. And I'm going to go, do you know where you want to eat? I don't know. I think there's maybe this. I don't think you're going to like that. All right. I got it. And then, oh my God, this is just what I wanted. I didn't realize how much I wanted. That's, in my masculine frame, that's the greatest moment in the world.
That's
when
our role.
I can identify in a woman something that she doesn't know she wants, and I can give it to her, and then she looks at me and goes, how did you know? Like, this is perfect. This is just what, that is for me the greatest part of masculinity, is being able to do that, being able to identify it and execute on it.
Being able to be decisive.
Yeah, and again, like, this is the beauty of men and women when they're in their like healthy masculinity and healthy femininity, is there's this dance we get to do that, again, helps us both grow as human beings. Like, I was fully probably 50 or late 40s when I figured out that, like, women in my life, particularly a romantic partner, a lot of times they don't want me to solve the problem. No one ever taught me that. Like, people spend a lot of time trying to teach me how to divide fractions in school. I've never had to use it. Not once in my life. Never. But like, somebody could have pointed out to me before I was 50 that, you know, if you called me as my male friend, or I called you and I said, Jeremy, I got something going on with one of my sons. It's really hard, and I told you about it. I would expect you to go, well, you know, Jim, like, I went through something like that when I was that age, and maybe you should try this. Or, you know, Jim, I love you, but you have a tendency to sometimes do this, and maybe you need to listen to him more than you're giving him advice. And if you just went, that sounds really hard, Jim, I would be like, yeah, no shit, man. Why? It's why I called you. Like, can you help? Like, can you help me figure out what to do with this? It's the opposite with a lot of women in my life. Like, a lot of times what they want from me is stop trying to solve the problem and listen.
Have you seen that video, by the way? Like,
yeah, it's not about the nail.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
I
brilliant.
was just going to bring it up.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's not about the nail is brilliant. But what's really funny about it is that there is validity to the point of view.
Yeah.
That sometimes sitting with someone's emotional experience before you, because I will never let go of my desire to help solve problems, particularly when someone I love is suffering and I might have some guidance or some point of view that will help them get through that. But I've tried to learn in this stage of my life to like sit for a minute and like hold space for this person's emotions before I start trying to solve things, or say to them honestly, like, this is something I've only learned recently in relationship, particularly in a relationship with a woman, is to, when she's sharing something with me that's challenging for her, something that happened or something she's feeling, to just honestly say, like, okay, here's the menu. This is what we're serving at Shea Gym. I can just listen. Like, I can just listen, and I can be here, and I can hear what you're saying, and I can just be here with you. I can listen to what you have to say, and then I can tell you a funny story about something that happened at work today, and I can pick you up and spin you around, and we can go in the other room and roll around in bed for a little while. Or we can make popcorn and watch a silly TV show that makes us both laugh, if that's what you need, like distraction and connection. I can give you some ideas of what I think might be helpful in the situation that you're in, and what I might do if I was in that situation, or some life experience I've had that's similar to it. What do you want from the menu? And by the way, don't be afraid, because you could say, I think I want this, and then if we start it and it doesn't feel good, okay, let's go to something else. Like, we can, but this is the menu. Like, this is the menu, this is what I've got. So what can I give you? And if you say, I think I want this, great, I'll give it to you. If you say, I don't know, you pick, great, I'll pick. And just promise each other that if I pick something and it's not working for you, that you'll tell me. Yeah. And you know, and I won't take it personally. I won't get mad. Like, how hard is it to do that? I don't think it's that hard. But it's just, we're not wired that way as men. We're not taught this. And I feel like the value of older men who have more experience in relationship with women, whether successful or unsuccessful, if anything, unsuccessful is really a good teacher. Because it's like, hey man, you don't have to step on the rakes that I've stepped on. Like, I learned these lessons the hard way, which is how I learned most lessons. So like, I'm very happy to be able to say to young men, like, hey, don't wait till you're 50 to learn this thing. Like, right. Man, learn it now, and it could be a superpower. So I think that's some of what our role should be.
What is up? It is Jeremy here, and I'm sorry to interrupt today's episode, but in case you didn't know, I don't get paid to do this podcast. I do it from a place of love, from a place of service, because I truly believe that these conversations can change the world. And all I ask in return is for you to share this episode with a loved one. If you're enjoying the conversation today, it would absolutely mean the world to just share with a friend or family member, because word of mouth is my oxygen. And if for some reason you haven't yet subscribed on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you happen to be listening to this, It would mean the world if you just hit that subscribe button, because that really helps us reach more people and impact more lives. Thank you so much. And now let's get back to the show.
Don't wait till you're 50 to learn this thing. Like,
Right.
man, learn it now and it could be a superpower. So I think that's what some of what our role should be.
Do you think you could, I'm in a place right now, selfishly, I'm going to ask for some advice.
Love it.
35, right? Obviously, I have the awareness that I'm never going to be the best version of myself until I'm a husband, until I'm a father. 100% awareness. I actually believe it's a big part of my life's purpose too.
Sure.
Because I don't think there's enough positive models that are embodying all of these qualities. Like, you're successful in business with your purpose, you're successful in relationship, and you're leading a family. Like, how many people, honestly, genuinely, can you look to that are embodying that trilogy of things?
Yeah.
You have young men who are like idolizing just absolutely degenerates.
Yeah.
And it's
And I understand why.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
seductive.
of
You know,
course.
like, it's, look, the devil sends a limo, God makes you take the stairs.
And by the way, speaking of the devil, like in Kabbalah, they call that Satan, Satan,
Yeah.
which is just like essentially our ego that's trying to get us to give in to instant gratification, quick hits of dopamine, rather than like long-term fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so-
And the definition, you know, when you read like ancient Aramaic, the term for the devil is the deceiver. It's the deceiver. But what's interesting about the devil in the Bible is the devil in the Bible shows up pretty often, New Testament and Old Testament. He never lies. He's the deceiver, but he never lies. He just tells you part of the truth. So, like, he doesn't tell Eve, you know, if you eat from the tree of the fruit of knowledge, you're going to get cast out and you're going to have all these second order effects by offending God. He just says, isn't it strange how God is prohibiting you from doing this thing? Like, you shouldn't be so afraid. Like, he doesn't lie. He just tells part of the truth. And that's what's an interesting thing, because all of the devils, all of the deceivers in us and in around us, because we have that in us and we have that around us, are telling us truths. They're just telling us part of the truth. Like, all of those young men that are like encouraging degeneracy and chaos for their own gain to these young, impressionable men, they've drank the Kool-Aid too. They've convinced themselves that the definition of happiness is how many sports cars you can have and how many models you can sleep with.
Right.
And now they're so invested in that worldview that they can't possibly acknowledge how empty their lives are.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Specifically, single life in Miami, right? As someone who, you know, has some status, has some things going for him.
Sure.
So like, there's a multitude of options, or at least a perception of options.
There is options.
Right? For sure. But what's interesting is like going back to the facade and wearing a mask. Men are often using material things, wealth, etc., as their self-worth
Sure.
to attract a woman. Women, naturally, their self-worth is attached to their physical beauty.
Sure.
Okay, so if we go on that premise, right, it is a lot of surface level bullshit happening. There's a very big disconnection of authenticity.
Yeah.
And I see this shit happening all the time, bro. It's I don't want to sound dark and dishopeful, if that's even a word, but like, I believe in love 1000%, but witnessing some of the shit that I've seen, it makes me lose hope in this idea of unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, here's what I'll say. First of all, you never have to talk to a divorce lawyer about how easy it is to see the ways that people hurt each other and lie to each other, and to feel like you're afraid you'll lose hope. Like, all I do all day is watch the turmoil that's been caused by people who once loved each other. Like, and I say all the time, there's a line from a Joseph Brodsky poem where he says, "I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear." Because like, when you see the stars, like, it's just so pretty. But then like you start to understand, oh, this is a ball of gas that's a million miles. Again, it just makes it less beautiful. But see, I don't actually think that's true. Like, see, when you are telling that absolutely accurate description of young people in Miami right now, when you talk about these young men who, you know, define themselves by the cars they drive and the women they can sleep with and the success materially that they've accrued, I don't think that's really any different than any dominance or competence hierarchy throughout history, right? It's because fundamentally, there's absolutely nothing wrong. And in fact, it's a perfectly natural thing. Like, humans are interesting because we're an aspect of nature that considers itself separate from nature. Like, it's really our defining characteristic. Like, there's no other sentient being on the planet other than humans that is part of nature, but considers itself something other than nature. Like, we consider ourselves something above that. And the truth is, we are creatures of biology and hormones and drives, ancient primal drives that are still at least part of our decision-making process. If not the drivers of it, they are part of it still. We are still in this meat that is our driving something. So when I look at that, I look at young men with sports cars, wearing nice clothes and, you know, like wanting to build their bodies and all those things. I just see, like, you know, woodpeckers with bright red plumage, you know, like trying to, you know, you ever watch them in the mating season? They like do these weird dances of like trying to like catch the female.
Do or the peacocks?
Oh, the peacocks, woodpecker, everything.
Yeah.
Squirrels. Like every animal has some version of the like mating rituals, you know? And I don't look at it and go like, oh, look at that peacock thinking he's Mr. Big. He thinks the colors of your feathers is what's important, but it's not. It's something more. Like, no, dude, it's like a thing you do.
Right.
Like, I get it. Like, it's what you do. You want to catch the eye, you know? Just like women, like, yes, beauty is incredibly important. I'm a heterosexual man. Like, a beautiful woman, just being in the presence of a beautiful woman feels good. I will walk down the street in Manhattan and a beautiful woman will walk past me, and just the scent of like her perfume and like it just makes me happy.
Yeah, the radiance.
Yeah, there's something in it that, like, looking at a beautiful flower. Like, it's not like I want to sleep with a woman in her 20s. Like, I don't. Like, we're in different life stages. They're my son's age. But like the beauty of a young woman, like, it's so lovely. Like, you're like a flower, like a beauty of a young man. I'm a heterosexual man, but when I see a young man in his physical prime, like, what a beautiful thing to be in the presence of. Like, so much strength and so much just radiance of like his strength, and he wants to prove himself. And like, even when you pose the question, like, it's a beautiful thing. Like, I'm 35. Like, I feel like I'm not a kid anymore, and yet I feel like it matters, the choices I make now. Like, I don't know if I have, how many more years do I have where I can just make bad decisions and I'm not foolish? You know, like, I remember that feeling. Like, I'm 53, you're 35, I've been 35. You haven't been 53, so I'm a few miles down the road, but I remember the feeling. I remember the feeling of being like, wait, at some point, am I really gonna feel like an adult? Because I kind of still don't. Like, am I gonna understand the answer? Because I kind of don't still. And I just, like, I wanna hug that 35-year-old version of me and be like, oh, you're in it right now. Like, your life is happening right now. While you're busy making other plans and waiting for your life to begin, your life is happening. Like, and I look at those young women, it's like, oh, the beauty of young women. Okay, but it's really, we all know, like, I always try to say to men that I often try to just talk about, like, that it's not the thing, it's the thing under the thing. So like, you know, like a man's body being strong. It's really not that women are like, oh my God, I like an 8-pack on a guy. Like, I'm sure aesthetically they like the look of that. But what they're really saying is, I like what's underneath that, which is, this is a man who's disciplined. This is a man who's willing to trade what he wants now for what he wants most. Like, that's the kind of man I want in my life. Like, I want a man who does the hard thing because it's the right thing, not the easy thing because it's easy. Like, I want, like, because you can't have a nice body with muscles and things like that if you don't eat clean and do the work. And so women, that's what they're drawn to. Like, I had a woman friend who said to me once, just a female friend, not a romantic partner, who who said to me she likes to date men who have a beard. And I said, oh, does it, you like the masculinity or you like that look? And she's like, no, to have a beard, you have to be patient. She's like, you have to go through the part where it's itchy and patchy and you have to still, nope, I'm going to be patient and I'm going to grow this thing out. She's like, so when I see a man who has like a fully grown in beard, I know that he's willing to be a little uncomfortable for something that is important to him. She's like, and I want that in a man. And I was like, that is awesome. And so I always say to men, so that they can understand that it's not just looks, I always say to men, do you know a woman who's beautiful, but she's not hot?
1,000%.
Okay.
That's what I'm most attracted to.
And do you know a woman who's hot, but not beautiful?
1,000%.
Right. Okay. So you understand the difference. Like one is just the aesthetics of it, and one has something to do with like confidence and a little bit of aesthetics, energy.
Right.
So sometimes when you talk about a woman, like, yeah, there's women that look great and there's men that look great. But a lot of times, like it's, okay, he's strong, but it's like, but it's what the strength symbolizes. Like, oh, she's beautiful, but it's also that she's like a soft place to land. Like her beauty makes you feel something. You know, it makes you feel warm. It makes you feel softer yourself. You want to like sink into that softness. And so much of you is like hard and charging, that to have this softness there. Like, and so I think beauty is a marker for that. But it's often deceptive. It's not real. Like, just like strength. Like, I know a lot of jacked dudes who can't fight for shit. Like show up in the jiu-jitsu school and they're jacked, and a 90-pound woman can ragdoll those guys because they have no technique behind all that bulk, and they have no cardio because all they do is lift weights. And also they're the most insecure motherfuckers in the world. Like they're terribly insecure. They're not strong. And again, there's not all men. There's some men so the strength is not necessarily an indicator of the fact that there's an inner strength happening there. I know some dudes that are frail little guys that are A, the scrappiest fighters you ever meet, and B, have deep inner strength and deep, perseverance and focus. And so I think those outer markers, like in nature, are important. They tell us something, they are a signal. But then the role of dating is to dig a little deeper and figure out what's underneath that. And a lot of times we're just so caught up in the markers that we chase that. Like New York City there's a lot of, finance bros walking around in the same Patagonia vest, all doing roughly the same job that they don't really like, but they make a lot of money at. And there's women going like, oh yeah, I want to date him. Why? Because he can get me into Soho House or Bond Street, or he can go to this restaurant. And it's like that. What do you want about that? What is it about that is meaningful to you? Because it's not the thing. It's usually the thing under the thing. So get to the thing under the thing.
You say cheating isn't the problem. It's a symptom.
Yeah. It's disconnection. Disconnection is the real underlying. Look, I believe in monogamy, but the form of monogamy I believe in is I'm going to sleep with as many women as I want to, which ideally would be one. Because I don't eat anymore when I'm full. And I want my partner to fill me. I want my partner to satisfy me. And I'm going to try to satisfy them as best I can. And I want the model of our monogamy to be that we are enough for each other, and we're going to share openly with each other what turns us on, how that might change over the years, whatever. But we're going to be really on, because if this is a primary drive for both of us, right? Like what separates us from being just friends is that we're sleeping with each other, then I want to be good at that job. So the way to do that is for us to be open and communicative about it. But if the only thing keeping your partner from sleeping with other people is a rule, how much comfort should that give you? Like, to me, that's not like, I don't not murder people. Like, I murder as many people as I want to, which is none.
Yeah.
And it's not because I think like there's a judge in the sky watching me. Like if you said, oh, God said you're allowed to kill people now, and the purge is real now, and you're allowed legally to kill people, I'd be like, great, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Like, I'm not going to go kill people now because I don't have any desire. I don't kill people because I believe sentient beings have the right to exist, and I think humans have autonomy and agency, and I don't want to kill them. I want them to be well. So it's the same thing with monogamy. Like, I don't want a partner to not sleep with other men because she's afraid she'll get in trouble with me.
Have you ever explored an open relationship at any point, or no?
No, I'm naturally prone to monogamy. I've been prone to monogamy. I have a lot of friends that are like in ethical non-monogamy and that they're trying different relationship permutations. I think it's great. I think that there's more than one way to be in relationship. I happen to, as a divorce lawyer, I have a skewed view because I see a lot of the failed attempts. But I don't believe that the ethical non-monogamy or the non-monogamy is the reason the relationship fell apart. I think that often the non-monogamy was like a Hail Mary pass. The relationship wasn't really working, and they were like, well, what if we try this? But I know I have a very close friend who's non-monogamous for many years, and she has a lot of really, like, a number of fulfilling relationships that are very valuable to her, and she's very open about, that being a lifestyle that works for her. So I think there's a lot of ways to live your life.
Yeah. I feel like monogamy isn't necessarily like the most natural biological program for us as humans.
I don't think it is at all, but also a lot of our day-to-day life is contrary to biology. Like, if you've survived past the age of 30, you're kind of running against biology. Like, most women died in childbirth. Most men died trying to get enough calories for the tribe to get through the day for most of human history. So the suggestion that, like, well, we're not in our natural state. Like, well, have you ever taken antibiotics? Then you're not in your natural state. But if you hadn't taken antibiotics, you'd be dead. So I think we have to be selective about where like, I don't think you have to have, like, reversed genome, vaccinations, or we're in a totally natural state drinking unpasteurized milk. Like, I think that there's probably some middle ground there.
For sure, yeah.
Where you go, like, hey, this medicine comes out of the soil, like, so that's a thing that's a little more natural than something that was 100% created in a lab. So, like, I think there are markers out there that we can follow. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, one way or the other. We tend to overcorrect in this culture.
By the way, going back to something you said, which I think is really important, like the underlying qualities in terms of, like, a jack dude, a dude who's fit. It's like the discipline that's required, the commitment, the consistency, etc. I was dating someone maybe 2 years ago. We were really vibing for a couple months. She wanted me to come with her to DC for, like, a work trip, right? It was like 5 days, and I was asking her, I was like, does the hotel have a nice gym? And she's like, I don't know. Like, I didn't ask. It's 5 days. And I'm like, exactly, it's 5 days. Like, that's a full week. Like, you're not bringing anything to get active in? She's like, no, like, I'll go on walks or something. And for me, it was, yes, I want you to take care of your physical body. And I also have the awareness that children are spending a majority of their time during the day with their moms. And they're going to be watching and witnessing their behaviors. So if they see mom being active, right, doing yoga, maybe lifting a few weights, they're much more likely to adopt that healthy lifestyle. And I think a lot of people miss that. Like, they think someone's going to change. Like, and I'm also guilty of that, by the way, like dating people for the potential that I see in them.
And that's a classic mistake that I think people make when they marry, which is a two separate mistakes. One is thinking that this person will change, which is not a good idea. And also thinking this person will never change. Like, thinking, oh my God, the sex is so great, it'll always be great. Or this person's so affectionate, they'll always be affectionate. Because people do change, but certain things don't change. And what happens is you have to figure out, like, how will we check in about when things, because, for example, I could see a permutation where that occurs and her relationship with exercise is different than yours. So that's a great invitation to a dialogue where you go, look, it's not just about, like, oh, I'm being vain and I don't want my muscles to go away. It's, I think clearer when I exercise. If I don't exercise for 3 days in a row, I'm foggy. I don't sleep as well. I find myself not making as good choices food-wise. Like, I just don't feel as good. And I want to bring my optimal state to this relationship, you know? And so why wouldn't, now again, if you explain it to someone that way, they might go, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. Like I remember once having a conversation with a woman I was dating. We were going on vacation together. It was one of our first vacations together. And I said to her, listen, the nature of my work is such that the world does not stop. The emergencies do not stop because I'm on vacation. So it was a lot of work to be able to leave. And when I get back, it's going to be a lot waiting for me. I wake up at 4 a.m. If from 4 a.m. until 5 I can work out, and from 5 until like 6, I can just return some emails and put out some fires. From 6 o'clock on, you are going to have the best version of me on this vacation. And by the way, you can sleep in. You don't have to get up. You can sleep past 6. So you can sleep through the whole thing of me doing these 2 really important steps. But I'm telling you, I'm going to be the best version of myself if you let me have those 2 hours. And she was like, oh yeah, that's totally sensible. And that became the pattern when we would travel together. That it was like, oh, okay, yeah, Jim needs his couple of, like he works out in the morning, he does that. And she was like, great, I'm gonna sleep in, or I'm gonna wake up and just have some tea and just chill by myself. And I know Jim's doing the thing that's gonna set him up for success for the rest of the day. That only happened because we had that discussion. All of, oh, you're working? Like, you know. I think more marriages and relationships have ended because of this, all right, yeah, whatever, fine. Like that contempt.
It's crazy though how just having that open dialogue and communication can solve so many of these issues before they even arise. Yeah. And coming back to the psychedelics aspect of things, like one of the things I've noticed within myself is like mushrooms have made me a better person.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that. Like every time that I do even a small dose, I realize, number one, that I usually am lacking gratitude. Like I get too comfortable and I forget how blessed I am.
Yeah.
Number 2 is like, I instantly want to send the most loving voice notes to
everybody,
people on my team, to my parents, like literally just acknowledging them for existing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love to, I find that happens on like low dose experiences, like where I'm doing, I wouldn't say a microdose, but like a minimal dose, like a gram or something like that. I like a museum dose. I sometimes just look at things, like I watch a bird flying and I think, how am I not just filled with wonder all the time? Like one of the things I always love about psilocybin is how colors, like how beautiful. Like I look at the leaves and just go like, was it always that beautiful? Like, have I just forgotten? Like, do I just see it so much that I don't realize how beautiful this is? And of course, you know, there's a scientific explanation for that with the default mode network and how like sort of by resetting the default mode network and shutting down, or at least impairing the default mode network, that your brain's, you know, your brain's sort of recollection and self-authoring is sort of wiped clean. So you are seeing things for the first time. But it's things you're familiar with seeing. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things about non-ordinary states of consciousness is that's something we all need to remember, that sense of wonder, that sense of awe, which, by the way, is kind of what love makes us feel like. Like romantic love, you don't just love this person, you love who you are when you're with this person, how they make you feel. Like, to love and to be loved are very intense experiences, almost equally amazing. Like it's amazing to love someone, but it's also amazing to be loved by someone. Like the way you regard you, like when you come home from an amazing date with a woman, like tell me you don't look in the mirror and think like, oh, like look at, like I feel so, like, because you're seeing yourself through her eyes, you know? And like I want any woman who I've ever had a romantic relationship with, like I always wanted them to be like, do you see how beautiful you are to me? Like, I don't know how you see yourself. I imagine like a lot of women I know, all you see is your flaws. But like, do you see how beautiful you are to me? Like, do you see how when you walk in, like I'm like overcome by like, God, look at you. Like, because I have to tell you, like one of the things like I think women, women could, in this moment that's very misandrist, and we're very into this like girls versus boys thing. Like, I have to tell you, like, there's something about how men admire women and how beautiful they are to us. A heterosexual man, and even a lot of my gay male friends, like, have tremendous affection for women. Like, women are so hard on themselves and so critical of themselves. And if they could, for a moment, like, really internalize and not pathologize and assume that it's just we want to have sex with them. Like, there's just something about, like, feminine energy that, like, I don't know, to me, it's so beautiful to be around. Maternal energy. Watching a woman with her child, like, there's something so beautiful about that.
Sure.
Like, I want to, like, hug them both. You know, I want to, like, say to the little kid, like, oh, like, you should look at your mom. Like, look how much she loves you. Like, because mom is, like, the name of God on the lips of children. Like, it just is. So for a man, like, finding a woman who will be a good mother to his children, if that's what his journey is, like, yeah, it's a really important thing. But there's not going to be like a buzzer that's going to sound when she walks in, that you're going to go like, oh, that's her, and now I know it. And now it's like, movies sell us the wrong thing. Like, movies sell us this false notion that you're just going to meet your soulmate and then you'll know and that'll be it. Like, I wish it was that easy. I don't think it is. I think there's faith involved. You know, like, there's an element of faith. There's an element of, like, I'm going to try. I'm going to give this person the ability to hurt me.
Let's talk about your mom. You lost her around, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah,
I think,
10 years ago.
I think one of the most emotional clips that I've ever witnessed of you was explaining and sharing the impact of your mother's loss.
Yeah.
And I would love if we could go there for a moment.
Yeah, my mom was a very, she taught me, I think all of my emotional vocabulary came from my mom. My mom was always moved to tears by things that were beautiful, and she was unashamed of that. Like, she was just unashamed to just be moved by things. And I didn't at the time really understand that, you know, but like, I see that in myself now. Like, I see how when something's beautiful, I'm not afraid to cry. I'm not afraid to let it move me, let it enfold me, let it wash over me. And I know that I got that from her. And we had a challenging relationship. We were both really strong-headed people and both smart people, and we had very differing political opinions sometimes. And I made the mistake that young men and women, but young men in particular, make sometimes, which is, it was important to me to be right. It was important to me that, like, I'd be respected, you know, and I didn't really consider the fact that, like, it's kind of, you know, like, she taught me the cow says moo. So it's hard to, like, take the political opinions of someone seriously if you taught them that the cow says moo. Like, I see that with my own sons now, like, when they're lecturing me about something, and I'm like, you do know you used to, like, poop yourself and I cleaned it up, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know,
You'll
so
always be able to hold that on them.
Yeah, so it's a challenge, you know, but she was terminally ill for 2 years with a very rare form of cancer, and I had to watch her wither away to nothing and become terribly sick. And I'd been around death many times, was a hospice volunteer for many years, but it's very different when it's not only someone you know and love, but the person that made you, you know, the person that was formative, that was in the earliest years of your life, was your lifeline, you know, like, it's a superpower. Like, women, like, create life and push it out and then can feed it. Like, it's insane. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. And we still don't understand it. Science understands so many things. We don't understand the spark of life and how that happens. You know, we probably never will, because we'd have to understand the nature of death as well. But losing that person, you know, and losing her in this long, slow, painful way, it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about life and death and love. It taught me a lot about the myth of closure. I wanted to figure out a way that we could say to each other all the things we needed to say to each other and never did. And we didn't. Like, we didn't.
You never had that opportunity.
I don't think it was real. I think it was a mirage. I don't think that ever happens. Like, I don't think closure happens. I don't think there's a way to say everything that needed to be said perfectly. I don't think that that's a real thing. My last experience with my mother, my last day with her, I had always been very self-assured and like the man I am. Like I moved out when I was 17 to get away from my father's drinking. And she lost a lot of years with me because of that. And I was an angry young man, so I argued with her constantly about political things and about points of view. When I got divorced, she was very disappointed in me because she was very like, why didn't you stick with it? You know, history proved that it was right. My ex-wife's been remarried for 15 years and is blissfully happy to the guy she's with. And we get along great as co-parents and, you know, former spouses. Her husband's an awesome guy. Like my older son just got married a few months back. And
oh,
we
wow.
had a wonderful time at the wedding together and all
That's awesome.
dancing and smiling together. So time has proven that it was the right thing to do, but it was really hard for my mom. She loved my sons so much. She didn't want them to have divorced parents. Like she wished for them what everyone does, which is like a perfect life, which I've never met anyone that had a perfect life, but you want it for your kids. And so we spent very little time together in the last years of her life until she got sick. And then she was in Vermont. She moved to Vermont to be closer to my sister while she was dying. And our last day together, I remember I drove from New York to Vermont, about 7 hours. And I got to the house, and she was very, very sick at that point, but she was still mobile. And she said, and I remember thinking like a lot is riding on this. Like this is our chance to have this conversation. Like we're gonna do this. Like we're gonna have this conversation. And I got there, and I just remember thinking like, we're not going to have this conversation. Like, I don't think she's got the energy for it, and I don't think I even know what we would say. And for me to be at a loss of words is, you can imagine, not an often thing. And she said, do you want lunch? And I said, yeah, that'd be nice. And she made me lunch.
Did you have any idea that was going to be the last day?
Yeah, I did. And I remember watching her cook for me. Like she broiled some fish and she made these carrots that she used to always make. I hated them. They were like carrots, but then she'd put butter on them and maple syrup. Like only my mom could make carrots unhealthy. And she made me this meal and we sat at the table and I ate every bite of it. And I told her about my sons and like how great they were doing. And I told her how happy I was, like how good work was. Like I just talked to her, like I just didn't worry about figuring it out. And I ate her fish and let her take care of me. And she kind of touched her food, but she wasn't really hungry. And then she said, I'm really tired. Can you help me get to bed? And I helped carry her to bed. And I hugged her and I just said, I love you. And she said, I love you too very much. And I left, and I remember thinking, oh, that's what I came there for. Like that was the closure. We didn't have to figure it out. We just had to love each other. We just had to let each other know that we were okay. Like I had to let her know that she did a good job. Like that for all of our differences and all the things that we might have done differently, that like, I'm really happy. And I have 2 really amazing sons who are happy and well. Like, and she did it. Like you won. Like you won. Like you did the whole thing right. Like in all of its imperfection, it was perfect. And I remember thinking, oh, that's what I needed. It wasn't something intellectual. It wasn't to be right. It wasn't to sort out or apologize for all the things we got wrong. It really was like, we just needed to love each other for a minute. And let each other know that we were grateful for each other's love. And after that, she, fell unconscious and was alive, but unconscious for a few more weeks. And then she passed a few weeks later with myself, my sister, and my dad all around her bedside. And she passed very peacefully. But it's a lovely memory. It's a lovely memory because it taught me something, and that is going to sound cliche, but that really love is the only thing that matters. Like at the end of the day, it really was that she knew that I loved her and I knew that she loved me. And it made me a different kind of parent because ever since then I've always, and my sons, at the time were like 16 and 19. And my 16-year-old Billy and I were going in circles sometimes. We're still different people. But I just always made a point of saying to him, like, even when we have our difficulties, and we still do, we have very different points of view. I've made a point of just saying to him all the time, like, you know, I love you, right? Like, you can feel my love for you, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and I want you to know, like, I know you love me. Like, even when you're mad at me, even when we disagree on so many things, like, I know you love me. And so always remember me saying that. Because someday when I'm not here anymore, if you wonder, like, oh man, my dad and I had such different views and we clash sometimes about things, never think that I didn't know that you love me. So that's something I would add to your repertoire. Because I know you're a very loving person. One of the things I like about our friendship is that you're like me. You're not worried about, like, you know, no homo. Like, it's very like, love you, man. I'm so proud of you, brother. Like, I love you too. Like, there's a lot of, like, you're open about that. And I admire that in men when they can do it. Because there's nothing as gentle as real strength, and there's nothing as strong as gentleness, in my opinion. But I have to tell you, man, like, add that to the repertoire, which is not just to tell people you love them, but also to make a point of telling them that you know they love you, like, you can feel their love. That's a really, really important piece.
I appreciate you sharing all that, bro.
You got it, man.
It makes me also just want to cherish my parents even more.
Yeah.
Like, they're 78.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had me at 43. And
you're still their little boy in some ways, but
especially my mom, like Jewish moms, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I do. Yeah,
they don't let go of that fact.
No, they don't. And listen, they did a great job. Like, you created a man in full. Like, you have a full palette. You know, you have an emotional vocabulary. You have a sharp mind, a fit body. You have a mission. You're trying to navigate it. Like, I know you well enough to know, like, our friendship, that you're consumed with the things you haven't yet accomplished and all the things that you want to accomplish and the vision of things. And I feel like you have a shot clock going in your head of, like, oh my God, but I want to do it all. And, like, if I could push anything on you, man, like, you take a moment, always take a moment to realize, like, look at what you are, look at where you are, look at what you've built of yourself, look at the body you've built, look at the mind you've built, look at the things you've overcome, look at the young men and women who you've coached and who you've helped shuffle their path. Like, there's so much for your parents to be proud of. There's so much. Like, you're in this interesting space between my age and where my sons are. But, like, when I can look at a man the way I do at you and go, I'd be so proud if you were my son. I'd be so proud. Like, you're trying to be a good man. Like, I'm not a good man. None of us are good men. We're trying to be good men. Like, we're trying every day. And every day we're going to get up and keep trying. And sometimes we'll get it right. And sometimes we'll miss the mark. But the fact that you're trying, be proud of the fact that you're trying. There's so much you've done you should be proud of. And there's so much more to accomplish. And I'll be one of the many people. You know, anytime I've messaged you after you've accomplished something big, or, like, I always say, like, you know, I'm proud to be one of the many people cheering for you, supporting you. Like, and we all have those people around us. Like, and if we don't, it's only because we haven't let other people in. Like, because there's people I barely know that I'm cheering for. You know?
Damn. Bro, it's crazy because I'm very, very, very hard on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I know what my potential is, and I know what areas I'm falling short, and I feel like sometimes I just get consumed with missed opportunities from the past and mistakes and areas that I could have done better, and I try not to get stuck in the rumination.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
But it's like, I'm 35, and like I mentioned, I hope in the near future to be a husband and to start a family. Yeah. And, like, that requires me to level the fuck up.
Yeah.
And that also puts a healthy pressure, but sometimes I feel like sometimes it causes me to be reactive.
Yeah.
And try to do things without having the long-term vision in mind.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that's a fair comment. But what I will say is, there's an old parable about a man who goes to a Zen monastery where they teach a specific martial art. And he says to the master who runs the place, how long will it take me to be a master of this martial art? He says, it'll take you 5 years. And he says, what if I work twice as hard as everyone who comes here? He goes, then it will take you 10 years. He says, what if I work 3 times harder than anyone who's ever been here? He says, well, then it's going to take you 20 years. He says, wait, well, it doesn't make sense. Why is it the harder I work and the more focused I am that I'm going to take longer? And he says, because if you have one eye on the destination, you have only one with which to see the way. And so I think it's understandable. Like Scott Galloway, who is, I think, a very intelligent thinker in the world of masculinity and gender and all these things. One of the things Scott says all the time, mostly in regards to women, is, women will say to him, like, I want to be like corporate success, but I also want to have a family, but I also want to be beautiful, and I also want to be, And he said, look, people say sometimes you can't have it all. Like, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at once. And I think I know a lot of high-achieving men, Andrew Huberman, Lex, you, Chris Williamson, like very high-achieving, intelligent men, hard-charging, lots of important stuff to say, a deep emotional vocabulary, like a lot of like openness. None of them married. None of them have children yet, because they've put a tremendous amount of focus into these other spheres of their lives. But all of them, I think, have the same sense of like, okay, I did a lot in this. Now maybe I need to think a little more about this. And they change their ratios. They're not afraid to reinvent themselves. Like Lex was crushing it on his podcast and then was like, you know what, I feel like I want to get back to science a little bit. So he was at Caltech doing robotics work for a while, recorded less episodes. That was a brave thing to do. He'll come back to the podcast thing better because he took that moment away. Like, that as a fit guy. Like, sometimes you have to take rest days. Like, I've made the mistake of working out 7 days a week for extended periods of time. And I have to tell you, like, you slow your gains. You slow a bunch of it. Whereas sometimes you take a day or two off and then you do legs. You're like, I've never been stronger. So I think you have to do the same thing. Like, you have to be willing to reinvent yourself. And I think it's also good in relationship. Don't be afraid to like flip the menu, change things around, do stuff a little bit different in the relationship from time to time, consciously, as a conscious practice.
How did fatherhood really level you up in certain ways? I guess you said since the relationship with your mom and having those realizations, it kind of opened up this portal for you to just communicate more openly and express your love unapologetically.
I was always a very expressive father because what it added to my repertoire was the desire to reaffirm to my sons that I knew they loved me, not just that I loved them, but I've always, from the day they were born, every conversation with either of my sons, if you pulled out my phone right now, the last text to each of them is always love you. Every conversation, even if I'm mad at them, it's like, well, you got to pull your head out of your ass, Bill. All right, I love you. Because I always want that to be the last words I said to them. Because someday it will be the last words I said to them. But my father was not that person. My father didn't tell me he loved me. My father didn't really spend a lot of time talking to me at all. And so I made a conscious choice that I was going to be very communicative about my love for my sons. Fatherhood was a really challenging, and it was like mushrooms. It was sometimes challenging, always helpful. But it holds a mirror up to you.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting a taste of it in your public life because you have a lot of young men watching you right now. And you have young women watching you right now wondering what should I be looking for in a man? How should men behave? What should I expect? Like, some of these are women who didn't have fathers or who had very subpar fathers. And they're looking at a 35-year-old man and saying, what should I be looking for in a man? How should I expect a man to treat the women in his life? And young men are looking at you going, okay, how am I supposed to behave? What am I supposed to do? And so that's a lot of what fatherhood is like. but in a much more intense way because the volume on your voice is so turned up because it's your kid. Like your kid, they're not listening to what you say, they're watching what you do. And so what you do speaks so loudly, they can't hear what you say. Like my dad told me don't smoke cigarettes while smoking 2 packs a day. So when I got to college and started smoking, it wasn't surprising, you know? My sons grew up watching their father not drink. So my sons don't really, like I broke a cycle. Like my father was an alcoholic. His father was a terrible alcoholic. Like I don't want to give my father a bad name. My father's father was a terrible alcoholic who beat him and locked him in closets. My father was an emotionally distant alcoholic who never raised his hand to me once, never really even raised his voice to me. Like he was just detached. So he moved the ball. Like he moved the ball. I said to him when he got sober, 9 or so years ago, like I was like, Dad, like you did a great job. Like you did so much better than your father did. And the goal of fatherhood should be to do a little better, like move the ball a little further down the road. Like that's it. Like perfection is not the goal. The goal is to do better. And my dad did better. And by the way, my dad, a lot of the awful lessons you learn growing up with an alcoholic parent, all the control issues I have, all of the things, the adult child of alcoholic stuff I have, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like the sensitivity of coming home and being like, okay, how much has he had to drink? And let me gauge it by his eyes, and let me gauge it by the slur of his speech, and let me watch very closely. That is a weapon in the courtroom for me.
Wow.
I watch everything everyone is doing all the time, and they don't know I'm watching it. And I can react to it perfectly, just like I did when I was 6 years old and trying to figure out how drunk my dad was. So that was a terrible thing that became a superpower that gave me everything I have. So I said to my dad, I'm like, Dad, I wouldn't trade the alcoholic dad I had for anything. My sons are soft as Wonder Bread when it comes to some things because they had this emotionally attuned dad who was there all the time. Like, and I'm grateful for that. But I have to say, like, I'm grateful for the father I had. Like, because when he got sober, he did the work in AA and he was like beating himself up about I was not a good father. And I'm like, you were a perfect father.
Wow.
To make me, and I love my life. So I'm so grateful for my alcoholic father. It was amazing.
It's amazing to have that perspective, though.
But how could you not? It's the truth.
It's the truth, but most people in your position, they would have had that experience with an alcoholic father and they would have played the victim and be like, I have an excuse to go off path, or I have an excuse to also be a degenerate.
I'm from a long line of alcoholics. I have the right to be an alcoholic. But see, to me, that's one of the things about being human that's so beautiful, is that we have the ability to take these things and repeat them and continue a cycle that's vicious and venomous, and or we can go, okay, I don't know what to do, but I know it's not that. Like my ex-wife and I, my co-parent and I, she had an alcoholic dad, I had an alcoholic dad. She had a kind of distant mom, I had a kind of distant mom, mostly because they were trying to manage the alcoholics they were married to. And she and I were 22 years old when we got married. We were 19 when we met. 22 when we got married, 24 when we had our son.
Wow.
Our first. 26 when we had our second. And neither of us had any idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
But we just sort of went, let's try to figure it out together. Like, let's just, all the stuff your dad did, just let's do the opposite, both of us. Like, let's just not do that. And hopefully that'll work. So we did the best we could do, And sometimes, like, that's the thing. Like, we're trying as a culture now, because we're so surrounded by curated perfection on social media, that like, I want to be ready and then I'll move forward. And it's like, no, move forward and you'll come to readiness. Like the only path in life is the one behind you. Like there isn't one in front of you. You have to forge the path, and there is no path that's clear there, but there's a path there. Like, and just move forward. Just keep moving forward.
That's what courage is all about. Like feeling into the fear and taking action.
Yeah.
Despite feeling scared.
Fear is a key part of, I always tell people that, like, especially for men, because men want to be brave. It's a core thing we want to be. We're called to be brave. We want to be brave. We see bravery as a desirable trait in men. Women do too. If you're not scared, it's not brave. It's only brave if you're scared and you do it anyway. Like, that's what makes it brave. Like, if you're not scared and you do a thing, it's not brave. Brave is, this is scary and I'm going to do it anyway because it needs to be done, or it's the right thing to do, or it's the thing standing in the way of the, like, a warrior fights with love in his heart for the people behind him who he's protecting, not hate in his heart for the person in front of him. Like, and so to me, like, a warrior's scared and does it anyway. That's what makes a warrior brave.
It seems like marriage is probably one of the biggest acts of bravery in 2026.
Yeah, it's scary and it's brave. And I think I applaud the bravery of it. Like, my son's wedding a few months ago, I sat in the front row and they wrote their own vows. And he read these lovely vows about, his wife's name is Megan. And he was like, I love you so much. You're such a good cat mom of our cats. And you're so light. And it was very pretty. And I listened to it. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, I know my son is a lovely, poetic soul. And then Megan read her vows. And I absolutely, like waterworks, lost it. Because to hear this young, beautiful, intelligent, lovely woman say, you're the best man I know. You're so strong. You're so like, and to hear, like, that's my kid. Like, I taught him the cow says moo. Like, he's 6'4" now, but like,
Shit.
He was this little guy who I like carried around and bounced around and, played Cypress Hill with the bass up so that it would, like, the pounding of the beat would make him fall asleep. It's amazing he became a prosecutor because I raised him on, like, gangster rap. And, I just thought this is like a finish line of sorts.
Yeah.
Like, I helped create this man, this amazing young man that this beautiful young woman was like, yep, that's my person. And I don't know, there's something so beautiful about that, like, about that journey. But again, like, your life is happening. Like, your life is happening. It's all unfolding the way it's supposed to. It's the same things you say when you're facilitating medicine work on someone.
Right.
Like, when someone's like, I'm scared, or I feel I'm dying, I feel like I'm dying. What do you say to them? Okay, die. Let go. Let go. If you see a door, walk through it. Like, breathe into the fear. Like, don't resist. Breathe into it. Feel it. Let it enfold you. Let it wash over you. It's the same thing with all your fear. Like, it's not just in the medicine space that's true. Like, you're afraid. That means you're taking the selection of a future partner seriously. That's good. That's something to be proud of. There are a lot of men that aren't taking seriously the selection of a woman in their life. They're just going, oh, she's pretty. She'd look good in my car. Like, you're worried about, you realize there are stakes to this thing. That's great. That's something to be proud of.
Is it true that, and I don't want to be exact with these percentages, but I don't know if it was from you that I saw this statistic or somewhere else.
Maybe.
But they did a survey of people that got divorced, and they asked them, like, at what point in the marriage did you know this was headed for divorce? And almost 90% of them said that they knew before they even got married that they were going to get divorced.
Yeah, quite a few people say that.
How is that possible?
Well, I think there's two explanations for that. One is that we do tend, after a relationship, to rewrite the history of it in a way that's convenient to the narrative we tell ourselves. So I think part of it is that. But part of it is that I think, our brain, our heart, and our gut are constantly talking to us. And it's also hard to tell which one's talking at any given time.
Yeah.
But there's a part of us that knows that. And what I'll tell you is, in terms of the order of operations, I think your brain is the least trustworthy. Like, your brain is constantly lying to you. It's constantly telling you stories that aren't true. It's constantly reminding you of things in ways that aren't honest about what actually happened. It's constantly trying to turn your attention to future contingencies that haven't happened and might not happen. Like, your brain is constantly fucking with you. your heart has a lot of reactions, right? Like it's a reflex. A lot of things we feel are reflexes. They're not like, they're not a virtue. They're a reflex. Like it's just compassion is a reflex, not a virtue.
Right.
Your gut, I don't think your gut lies to you that often. Like your body, because when I say your gut, you mean your body. Your body is not lying to you. Like your body is trying to tell you something. Like one of the things you and I have in common is we both had an Adderall journey. We both, we both have ADHD. We've both taken Adderall. And one of the things I learned when I took Adderall was that it detached me from my body in real ways. And it's a perfect drug for capitalism because it'll make you sit down for 8 hours and focus on tasks that are fucking meaningless. And it'll pull you out of your body. Like it'll pull you out of your natural sleep cycle. It'll pull you out of your natural physical rhythms. It changes so much about you. It made me a robot. It made me an amazing machine. Like I never billed more hours than when I was on Adderall. And getting off of it was like kicking like dope. It was terribly difficult because my brain was like, we haven't had to make any of these chemicals for a while because we just had this rush of amphetamine all the time. All the research that they've done on Adderall is kind of hilarious because, everyone says like, oh, it helps me with my focus. But when they do placebo studies, what they find is that when given a task that requires focus, both people perform exactly the same, on or off of Adderall. Their perception of how well they're doing goes through the roof when they're on amphetamines. So basically what they've proven is that amphetamines make you feel good. No kidding.
It's crazy.
Like, no kidding.
And they're feeding this shit to 7-year-olds.
Of course they are, and changing their brain chemistry in doing so. And I know people that are so, and I will tell you, like quitting smoking, quitting all the things I've ever quit, Adderall was the hardest. Adderall was the hardest because it wasn't that kicking it physically was hard. I mean, I was a little tired or whatever for a few days. It was just the feeling of like, oh my God, I used to be so good at everything and so focused, and now I just feel like incompetent. But the truth was like, no, you're in your body again. Like you're in your reality. You're not in this drug state all the time. And so I think that there's so much, our bodies are trying to talk to us all the time. And our body has no agenda other than to take care of us. So I think in terms of the hierarchy, like listen to your body, listen to your heart, listen to your brain, but like realize that it's like an unreliable friend. They love you, you think they want what's best for you, but take everything they say with like a grain of salt,
So it's like, it's really tapping into our intuition. Sounds like what you're saying.
I think so. I think your gut, your body, like something, I think people sometimes know. Like I never want to say to someone, because sometimes we have fear and we're just leaning into the fear. And like, so sometimes if someone's in a relationship and they're like, oh, I have some fear about marrying this person or about having a child with this person, it's natural. Of course you can have some fear about something like that. It means you're taking it seriously. But don't completely ignore fear. Like if you have a recurring fear and a recurring gut feeling that you're making the wrong choice, listen to yourself a little bit, explore it, share it with your partner, share it with a friend, share it with a professional. Don't be afraid to be, honest about those things and fearless about those things. Because I don't think we should ignore the signals that our bodies and brains are sending us.
All right. So if you have been feeling the call to visit Israel, this is your sign, because in August 2026, I am leading a retreat in the Holy Land. This is going to be one of the most epic experiences ever, because over the last 2 years, I have built relationships with some of the best people in the country. So we are getting access to the things that 99.9% of people don't get to see when they visit Israel. In addition to that, it's going to be a 5-star experience combined with a lot of spirituality and transformation. So if this sounds like something that you are interested in, hit the link in the show notes to apply for our Israel initiation happening in August 2026. Now, let's get back to the show.
Don't be afraid to be, honest about those things and fearless about those things. Because I don't think we should ignore the signals that our bodies and brains are sending us.
Well, what's crazy too is, we talked about the destructive effects of Adderall, it's essentially lighting up the dopamine centers in the same way that cocaine does, right? We're handing this stuff to children, and then we have antidepressants and SSRIs, which actually have been found to completely mess with our gut health, which is where we produce 90% of our serotonin. So it's like these same drugs that are supposed to make us feel good are actually just dimming our emotional capacity to feel fully, and they're clouding our intuition. And that is why I feel like 95% of people that are walking around, maybe not in New York City, but in general, are walking around asleep. They're not actually fully awake to their potential. They're not awake to this human experience.
I agree. But that was one of the core original messages of yours that compelled me to the development of our friendship and connection, and why I always wanted to elevate your message, is that I think you really are awake on a lot of things, and like have your eyes open to it. And I think it's the kind of wisdom that's meaningful because it's hard won. Like, you know what it feels like to have that amphetamine rush and focus and the things that came with it. You know what it's like to be like the cool guy at the party who drinks and does his thing and smokes weed and does all. Like, the truth is, like, most people are walking around in a very imbalanced physical state. Like, all the people I know that drink alcohol, almost all of them don't realize that even one drink spikes your cortisol levels for the next 24 hours. So what happens? You wake up the next day, you feel anxious, you feel nervous, you know what's going to make you feel a little better that night after work? Another drink. And now you're just creating this cycle. Or I feel really down. Oh, I'll take my Adderall now. And now I feel anxious. I feel so anxious after 6 months of being on Adderall, immediate release or extended release. Okay, well now I'll take an anti-anxiety. I'll take a benzo. And I'll take that, and it's just constant tricking with our chemistry. And yet we live in a society where psilocybin's still illegal.
Still a Schedule 1 drug, just like heroin.
Right. Which to me is the most hilarious game in the world. Like, I don't know anybody out there who's like, I'm going to take a bunch of mushrooms and, like go beat up my friends. But alcohol, like almost every terrible decision that people I know made, alcohol had something to do with it.
There's hundreds of thousands of deaths every single year that are directly associated with alcohol.
And all the second order effects of it.
Exactly.
And relationship instability, economic instability, crime, neglected children. Like, there's so many second order effects from alcohol.
And then we take mushrooms. In the history of fungi, tens of thousands of years, how many people have overdosed on mushrooms?
And by the way, anybody who has had real experience with psilocybin will tell you, it's not a drug you're going to do for fun every weekend. Like, it's not how it works. Like, it's not that kind of a thing. Yes, you could take a low dose and probably have like a fun experience with it, but most of the time it's really more like of a therapeutic nature. It's more of a self-improvement tool. It's like saying, like, are you going to abuse protein shakes? Like, no. Like, maybe there's somebody who drinks too much of them out there, but like, that's not what they're for. And it's really not a high potential for abuse, Whereas, again, heroin, amphetamine, alcohol, cocaine, these are all drugs that have a high potential for abuse and a high dependence and tolerance and an addiction cycle that gets created,
I really want to dig up. We've gone for like 2 hours and 15 minutes, bro.
That's crazy.
But we're gonna wrap this up in a minute. But
you got to find the old school.
Bro, I'm gonna find this.
I can't even imagine where it is, like what it was.
I want to see how accurate it is.
What's funny is, what is our memory of it? How accurate is our memory of it? Because that's what's so fun. I always tell people that, like, the future is a projection. Like, the future is you're taking the things that happened in the past and you're using your imagination to think what's going to be next based on the past stuff. Like, so the future is entirely in your imagination. The past, though, is also largely your imagination.
Which is
because
wild.
How you remember things is loaded with all kinds of subjective interpretations and false things. So, like, if you and I really were forced gun to the head to okay, what do you think our first interactions were? I guarantee we'd get it wrong.
Bro, I remember this shit so distinctly, bro. Like, it's crazy because I know I was in one of my older apartments and I remember I was listening to it. Like the first hour I listened while I was taking a bath.
Okay.
I rarely take baths.
Okay.
And it was like,
You have such a visceral memory of this. It's great.
so the first message was October 11th,
That's
2023.
Right after my birthday. October 2nd is my birthday. 2023, so yeah, it was almost 3 years ago.
This is interesting. I feel like it doesn't have the initial message.
It might not have been on Instagram. I think our first contact might have.
No,
maybe
it definitely was.
email. Was it? Okay.
Here's
it
a
was
voice
Instagram.
note. Here's a voice note. 57 seconds on October 11th. Let's see what it says.
I knew you left me a voice note. Yeah.
Let's see what it says. It's going to be great.
That's funny.
How do I rewind this shit? Let's see if I can.
I can't.
Share with you when you're here one of
No, so we were already friends at that point.
Wait.
brother. Let's
Brother.
go. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. This made me smile so much. Definitely gonna have to send you or share with you when you're here one of my brand's chocolates. It's like
Oh,
a
yeah,
combination
the
of the
chocolate.
highest quality superfoods, really designed to fuel your gut health and optimize your cognition, and they just open up your heart. So expansive. They could honestly probably save some marriages.
Crazy.
We had contact before that, though.
Yeah, we did. This was the first voice note I
voice
sent.
note.
And the first message
It was
is
so
saying,
positive. Like you're glowing in that message. Like it was like, brother, let's go.
Bro, I'm glowing right
and
now.
it made me so happy. I remember being like, this guy's great. His
you know,
energy is great.
there's a lot of lessons in this though, right? Because this is October 11th, 2023. And I said, I would love to have you on my podcast if you're ever in Miami. This was like 2.5 years ago. And granted, my podcast, like, again, because my energy's been directed towards this and that, so it hasn't been as consistent
Yeah,
at times.
transforms.
And then you said, I'd love that. I'm likely coming to Miami in November for Art Basel, just for a few days. Would enjoy it. Love your stuff on microdosing. I've been growing my own stuff for years.
Yep.
And
2023, I was still growing a lot of mushrooms. I haven't grown in years, but I got to a point where I thought, it was like about 4 years ago is when I got back into psilocybin, and I thought, rather than relying on a supply chain issue of it, I'll grow it. And I learned a tremendous amount about mushrooms, and I really threw myself into it, and I had a lot of unsuccessful grows, and then I had a bunch of really successful grows. But of course I never sold it or anything. I always just would share it with friends and use it myself. But I remember at the time, the depth of connection it gave me to be growing these mushrooms and watching them become and then ingesting them. It changed the whole feeling of it for me because I was cultivating them. And
you birthed them.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful, patient process that then when they pin, it now becomes so fast. They go from nothing to full growth in a couple days, but you've been waiting for several months.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible. It's such a, I stopped growing because it required, they're so prolific and I don't do them often. So I just had literally pounds of mushrooms. And so I didn't really even know what to do with all of them. And I was growing all different strains. I grew, albino penis envy, and I grew golden teacher, which are the easiest to grow because they're the most hardy. But I grew a bunch of different strains, and it was super fun. I have tons of pictures on my phone of all of my mushrooms that I grew in different stages.
It's just cool though, because when I think about it, it's a lesson of persistence, and it's a lesson of actually that long-term fulfillment. I was set on making this shit happen, bro.
Yeah.
There's very few people that I've actually put that type of consistent energy.
Yeah.
And it reminds me now, I'm being in New York also awakens this energy of I can hustle a little more and do it do it in a healthy way. You know what I mean? These guys who are trying to make it in music, and you see them in Times Square. It's there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
Where they are so connected to their passion, and they're willing to just talk to a fucking stranger and be uncomfortable and ask for a donation. It's wow, how can I lean into that more? How can I enroll people in my vision at a higher level? And being in New York City and reading these messages from a few years ago brings that back.
But what was most compelling about you to me, and remains so, was your authenticity. Like if because a lot of people are trying to sell you things, and when you're popular and you're on a lot of shows and you can bring viewers to something, like everybody approaches you and everybody's got a grift, everybody's got something they're trying to do. You just were, from the first interaction I had with you, super open, super connected, super authentic. And part of like the joy of our friendship has been watching you walk this path. Like watching you go to Israel for the first time and like reconnect to your faith in a different way. Watching you integrate that into your return to like a much more secular environment.
Right.
Watching you come much more deeply into your cultural and religious heritage. Like, again, we don't share that religious heritage, but like the beauty of someone finding their path, connecting to their history, connecting to their heritage, to the lives that came before them and the struggles of the people that came before them. Like, that's so human. Like, you don't have to be of any particular faith to find that incredibly beautiful and inspiring. I feel like those musicians, like I love street music. One of the things I love best about living in New York is that like when I'm in the subway and someone's just playing their guitar, someone's playing saxophone or singing or rapping, and I always put money in the thing because I'm always like, my God, this is a part of New York we can't lose. Like, it's so good. It's such a, like on a night like this when it's sunny and beautiful and like you're walking down and you hear the music of someone playing music, it's like such a New York moment, you know? And I have to tell you, like, what that is that these people are like deeply connected to their passion, and they're deeply connected to their authentic self and the art and the beauty that's in them. And you have a tremendous amount of beauty to share with the world. Keep sharing it.
Thank you, bro.
Like, those things are drawn to you because it's real.
Yeah, I want to finish with a little rapid fire.
Sure.
Very quick, but
Go for it.
I don't think I ever shared this with you, and I think it'll provide just a little more context. It's interesting looking at the timeline of that message I sent you initially, because obviously I was very deep in the microdosing space.
Yeah.
And I still am super passionate about that. Sure. And just holistic health in general. Yeah. And helping people awaken to their highest self, which I'm on the process and the journey of.
We all are.
Yeah. So it was a couple months, it was probably August, September 2023. And I just remember going through this 2-week period or so where I woke up and I just had zero inspiration to do anything. Like, I literally wanted to stay in bed, and I was like, this is so weird, because something that I pride myself on is my energy and my passion for life. Yeah. And I felt like I was just depleted of this life force energy. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I have all the tools. I'm eating the right things. I'm working out consistently. I'm doing my breath work, but I still just feel this empty void. And I took a small dose of mushrooms, just 1 gram, and it was a full moon. I took a hot bath, and it was literally during that experience where I felt God's presence right in front of me. And he's like, bro, where have you been?
What are you doing?
He's like, you're trying to do everything by yourself. Like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. Like, let me support you. Yeah. So it was a couple days after I went to my first Shabbat dinner, and who knows how many months.
I remember that because you were pretty open about this.
Yeah.
Like, it was interesting because I watched you, like, it was funny because at first you were like breadcrumbing it a little, like you were because I felt like you were like, is this going to damage my brand? Is this going to damage how people perceive me? Because there's also this marked around the same time where there was such a tremendous rise in anti-Semitism happening, and there was a lot of like, I don't remember what was going on at the time specifically, but something was going on where it was
October 7th.
It was. Okay. Yeah. It was right after October.
Then.
You're absolutely right. And I remember thinking like that adversity.
Yeah.
Caused you to start like thinking about your Jewish identity in a different way. And it also gave you like a challenge, right? Like a challenge to like, hey, wait a minute, like I'm going to stand with like the people of my heritage, the people of my life, the people who I'm part of this tribe, I'm part of this group, and still be open to everybody else. Like, you've never been someone who was like, like, oh no, I'm just, I'm Jewish and I'm only for Jewish people. Like, your faith is a piece of you, your heritage is a piece of you. It's a beautiful piece that I'm really, I think it's beautiful to watch you grow into it, and to shape it in different ways. But I think that, that is part of what is real. Again, an authentic journey
Right.
is one where it doesn't always like make a bunch of sense while it's going on. You know,
For
I don't know
sure.
how all these pieces will fit.
Yeah.
And yet they do.
Right.
And I think when you were describing that, you know, obviously I know your journey a bit, but when you were describing that, like, yeah, I have all these things. I have this body, I have this, you know, mind, I have this business that's thriving. I have all these other things. I have people that want to hear what I have to say, that are interested, and they're bringing me on as a coach. And I have this, you know, what you realize is a God-sized hole,
Right.
you know, just waiting inside of you. And I think that is, whether it's theological in the form of like believing in God, like a Bible-believing God, or whether it is just the idea of something much bigger than yourself or some connection to the infinite.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm really an agnostic in the sense that I don't understand the nature of God, and I don't know that humans could. I think, to me, if there is an omnipotent creator force that created the known universe and the unknown universe and is infinite, like, how, for me to think I could understand it at all is like an ant trying to understand quantum physics. Like, an ant can't even figure out it's on the wrong side of a piece of paper or something. Like, I just look at it and I kind of go, you know, I have faith in God. I
Yeah.
believe in God because I feel God's presence.
Yeah.
But it's visceral. It's not logical. And to pretend that it's logical, for me, it would be dishonest.
I agree. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think anyone.
But I think your Judaism and your connection to God through the lens of Judaism,
Yeah.
if that has connected you to understanding the infinite and to understanding God and his potential plan for you, like, we're using metaphors. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's I forget who said it, that God is the name we give to the blanket we put over a mystery to give it shape. But like, when I say things like God, he, like, I don't believe God has a penis. I don't believe God has external genitalia. I don't think he would need it. But I keep calling him he, because Jesus and a lot of scripture talks about God as a father.
Yeah.
But really, like, God's a father and a mother, because a mother gives birth, and God created the universe, and God gave birth to the universe. So what we're using is like a metaphor.
Maybe
Like,
we need some pronouns for God.
Maybe we did. Maybe God is going to be a they them. I have no idea. But maybe I think God
No.
would be a we. God would be in everything.
Only in New York City with Bomdani as mayor will God.
Would God be a we? I don't know. God.
No.
But again, I don't think God has to have genitals.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And so I'm cool with the fact that, like, I don't understand the nature of God. And if I don't completely understand it, I don't expect anybody else to. But the beautiful thing about my beliefs is they don't require anyone to believe them.
Yeah, there's a couple things if we
Go
can
ahead.
if we can keep it under wraps, but like there are definitely topics I wanted to
Go
just
ahead.
cover
Let's blow
briefly
through.
with you.
Let's do it. We'll go brief. Shot clock.
Pornography.
I was young. I needed the money. Oh, no. Okay, you didn't mean mine. All those guys were nice. No,
I wonder actually who would make more money between you and I if we started an OnlyFans account.
you for sure.
I don't know,
You'd
bro.
probably be much more impressive naked.
You
than
got
me.
like the silver fox energy. Like the women love the sleeves.
I mean, I will
fucking
tell you, my
well-dressed.
DMs, there's a lot of women in my DMs. And
Yeah.
they're women that I would have thought were way out of my league. So that's sort of shocking to me. I don't respond to them. But
You don't respond, like,
deeply
to
flattered
say-
by it. I don't, just because I get so many messages from men and women that I when I first started to have some level of fame, I would respond just to say, oh, thank you so much for reaching out, kind of a thing. And then people would, the next
it
message
invites
would
them.
just be so long.
Yeah, then the
and it got
pics
to the
start
point
coming.
where then it's like I try, you know, so I just learned it's better to just not, but it's not out of like, I don't even read a lot of messages because there are just so many that come in.
That must be tough though.
It is tough. Yeah, it is tough because I don't like to reject anybody who's reaching out to me, but like there's just only so many hours in the day, and I already had a full-time job in the realest sense of the word, and now I'm finishing my second book. I'm still doing media work. I just don't have any more bandwidth for those things, and to just try to like make cursory connections with people would just eat a lot of time that I think would be better suited giving them the things that I've tried to share with people that apparently resonated enough that they would want to reach out to me. So they should hear it as like, I'm writing the next book. It's not that I'm not writing you back.
For sure. So how have you seen porn destroy marriages and relationships?
Yeah, so I think my own personal human experience of porn is because I'm of a different generation than you, before the internet, if you look at like 1970s porn, like that you would like, your friend's dad had a Betamax video that you could like watch or whatever. It's so quaint compared to what's out there now because it wasn't violent, it wasn't degrading, it wasn't like there's a brutality to the current zeitgeist of it that's just so bizarre. It really was very mutual. It looked a lot more like what actual sex looks like, and the bodies of the people in it looked like people's actual bodies that you were gonna like actually see in the world. So it didn't have this insane creation of like an expectation of what sex is supposed to look like that then, by the way, a lot of women are like trying to make the sex look like porn because men are expecting sex to look like porn. Like it's shaping not only our nervous system, but also our perception of sex in really negative ways. There are a lot of people that are becoming terribly desensitized to actual sexual connection based on their consumption of porn and the abundance of porn that's out there, which is constantly accessible and is like, it's like weed in the 1970s versus weed now.
Right.
Like weed in the 1970s, the THC content was like somewhere around 5% of like what it currently is. Like the around the town brown, you could smoke a whole joint, you'd be a little high. You take one puff of the stuff that's out there now and you can see through time. Like it's hyper potent. And that's what we've done with porn. Like porn has just become a distilled version that is now way too powerful for people's nervous systems and their sexual responses. And it's creating a generation of men that have burned out their ability to really find gratification without novelty and intensity. We have all, as men, found ourselves in a hole of looking at porn, and suddenly we're looking at more and more intense porn. And we stop and go, wait, when did I get to this place? Like, when did I start looking like this is a little intense, you know? I had a friend who's a comedian who said that he thinks a great tool for men should be the next time you're on Pornhub or X or whatever, any of those things. Before you can watch a clip, you have to read the title of it out loud. Most men would just stop and like turn off the computer and go call their mom. Like, because if you were like, stepbrother destroys, you're like, oh, okay, that's why would I look at that? That's really not normal.
Yo, you know what's crazy actually? And it's funny how like psychedelics keep getting tied into this, but one of the things that actually helped me stop watching porn was ayahuasca.
Okay.
And I had this freaking...
I've still never done ayahuasca.
I had this freaking very vivid visual of me observing myself watching porn. And I was so fucking disgusted, bro. Where like it was actually in that moment that I was like observing, and maybe, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, who knows the amount of time, but I just started purging. And I saw like vivid faces on the screen, bro. And I was just like terrified. I was like, bro, what are you doing?
And it flipped that for you.
Exactly. And I realized later on, because I also get messages from men who are like, addicted to it.
Yeah. It's a real thing.
So not only does it desensitize you to sex and create all these unrealistic expectations, but it also creates this insane amount of shame internally.
Tremendous.
Because again, in the moment, it feels good.
My friend Neil Brennan, who's a comedian, a brilliant comedian, he has a great podcast that I've been on called Blocks, and he's a great stand-up. He was co-writer of the Chappelle Show.
Oh wow!
And co-creator of Chappelle Show. And Neil has this thing where he says that when you're masturbating or when you're looking at pornography, that it's like a werewolf. Like that, like the werewolf, like you finish, and all of a sudden you're like, what happened to my, like I ripped my clothes off. Like it's like when the werewolf wakes up the next morning after he's gone back to being human. It's just this feeling of like, what the fuck
It's
happened?
that post-nut clarity.
Post-nut clarity, but it's like a post-nut when it's from masturbation and porn,
disgust.
it's like a disgust.
Yeah,
it's like an internalized shame of like, oh, like what am I fucking doing? Like what am I? I'm a grown man sitting here with my pants around my ankles and like a, you know, like this is insane, you know? And
Yeah.
what I think a person finds when they do walk away from porn, just like walking away from Adderall, is you learn that, oh, I've just been in like a chemical state.
Yeah.
Like it takes a little while to get used to it, but it's like you actually find like, oh, like actual sex is much more fulfilling now. Like, and like when you don't like just burn out that part of your body and your brain, and you don't burn out the sensitivity of your penis by like constantly masturbating, like it changes your makeup as a man. I don't think we're intended to have that level of, you know, of stimulation sexually and that level of variety. For me, and again, this is another thing that came with fatherhood, you know, a lot of the women in porn are under age 30. Like a lot of them are 18, 20, 25. And for me, I found it in my life, in my journey as a man, when I look at a woman who's those ages, I really try to remember and reframe in my mind that, like, you know, like a 29-year-old, for example. Like there are a lot of people that would say, oh, I'm 53, me being with a 29-year-old woman, nothing wrong with that. You know, like she's an adult. Okay. But when my son Noah, who's 29, when he was in like preschool and they had that, you know, months of the year play that they would do, January is that month, right? Yeah. The little girls on stage with him, that's one of those girls.
Yeah.
Like that's that girl. Like I'm gonna have sex with one of those girls. Like that's insane. Like that's insane. Like she was a little girl, the same age as my son, and I'm gonna find her sexually desirable. Like there's nothing wrong with looking at her and thinking, oh, she's beautiful, and oh, but like the part of your brain as a man that's supposed to go, wait, she's to be protected. She's to be, like, I have a lot of young women in my life who work for me or work in my office building, things like that. And I'm very proud that, like, what they bring out in me is something very protective and paternal. And even if they're like very beautiful, there's like a part of me that's very like, hey, you know, be careful, you know, like kind of like it's a very dad vibe.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's healthy masculinity. I think healthy masculinity realizes, like, you know, don't objectify women in that way. Don't reduce them to just body parts the way porn does. Don't reduce their value to purely their sexual value and that it's a disposable commodity and a replaceable commodity.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. It's a hard thing because everything else in the culture is jamming that down our throat all the time as men. Like,
No pun
women,
intended.
women, yeah, for real. Like women constantly. Right. But I have to tell you, like, when you can transcend that by reframing it in your brain, that's someone's sister, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's, like, there's a real, I think, beauty to that as a man. Like there's a strength that comes with that, and it's a superpower of sorts. It really is. Because then when you do choose to let a woman in that romantic way or sexual way, you're just, I think you're making better choices.
My last question.
All right.
Just because selfishly, I know a lot of my audience are now Jewish. We have a big Jew, like hundreds of thousands, which if you think about it on the scale of how many Jews there are in the world, there's only 15 million. I think we probably have like 5%, maybe 10% of the global Jewish population. Wouldn't you say? Yeah, across all platforms.
That's hilarious.
Have you seen any differences? The divorce rate now, what are the latest stats on the percentage of divorce in
America?
America?
53 is what we call the crude divorce rate, 53%. It's misleading because there's probably another like 7 to 10% of people that are separated but never went through divorce.
Got it.
So they're not living together. And then there's also the people that are unhappily married and when asked in marriage satisfaction surveys say they wish they'd never met their spouse. but are still married to them and not even separated from them.
So I think it's probably fair to say that 10 to 20% of marriages are actually successful.
What you signed up for, which is I want a pairing with a person that's going to make my life better and their life better and that we're not going to regret.
Got it. So do those numbers fluctuate at all within the Jewish community?
Yeah. I've done a tremendous number of religious Jewish divorces of varying levels. I think it's quite funny because I'm a lapsed Catholic of German descent.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm negotiating who has the kids for Cholamoid period or who gets Simchat Torah or who gets Shavuos, or that I can tell you the difference between Purim and Shishim Purim if you're living in a walled city. It's bizarre. Like I know way more Yiddish than I should. Like I'm out here like a Wilde Chaya. I'm just digging it. But what I'll say is, so Judaism at differing levels. And again, like what is true for like, and even within like Hasidim, for example, like the Ger versus like Satmar dynasty, like there's so many different.
I don't know about any of that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of subheadings, you know. And
Let's talk about the Orthodox Jews. Are they?
So Orthodox meaning like Hasidish or meaning like conservative Orthodox?
I guess we could
Like
include
modern?
Yeah, we could include modern Orthodox into that.
Like, are we putting on tefillin? Are we wearing tzitzis? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, like I would say the people that wear tzitzit are modern Orthodox.
Okay.
Like I wrap tefillin, but I'm not Orthodox.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is, I think that there is in Jewish culture a premium put on the value of family. It's the same reason why there are a lot of Jewish lawyers. There is a premium put on education in a lot of Jewish households. There is an encouragement of young men and women to exercise their full potential. And in Jewish families, for a mother to be very proud of her children is something that you're supposed to have nachas, you know, like you're supposed to. Like you're supposed to have pride in your family. So it's not, in some other cultures, some other religious traditions, it's considered a form of hubris to have a lot of, you know, pride in your children. So I think also the fact that in Jewish culture there are so many holidays and that there are so many rigid rituals associated with holidays, that I think when you have so many sort of, you know, simchas built into your calendar and your life, and like it is, no, we're going to your cousin's wedding. Like he's your second cousin, but we're going because we go together, we gather together, right? And as a people, we have overcome tremendous diversity if you're Jewish, right? You've overcome tremendous diversity. You had, you know, my ancestors literally try to wipe you off the face of the earth. And so you have this sense of like, okay, we have a shared trauma and we have a shared overcoming and thriving in spite of this. We still have a bunch of people against us, but yet we're not going to let hatred take over because that's not God's plan for them or for us. Like, so I think those are all how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, so those are things that carry a person forward in marriage, all of those traits of mind. But that being said, there are a lot of really successful Jewish people. Money corrupts. Money changes people's priorities and their options. Jewish people, by percentage, particularly more religious Jewish people, have a lot of children. And although children are a tremendous bond between two people, children are antagonistic to the bond of marriage. You're sleep deprived. You have economic stress created by having children. A woman's body changes tremendously when she's pregnant or when she has children. And you're already in a situation where if you're religious enough and a woman goes to the mikveh and she like honors those types of traditions, you already have a very small window of sexual availability.
Right, it's like 17 days
Right,
a month.
and you got a crying baby in the other room and you have kids who are like, so that's like, if you got a small window for sex and now you've got kids and you've got stresses and you've got work because you want to provide for your children, like it puts tension on a marriage. But again, what else do you have? Maybe you have a faith community. Maybe you go to shul. Maybe you have groups of men who, again, depending on your level of orthodoxy, like in the Hasidic end of things, like men are sex segregated. Men are with other men. There's a minimal amount of temptation in their life because they only interact with women. Even visually, they only interact with women. And if a woman's frum, and if they're mostly around frum women, they're not seeing a lot of exposed flesh. They're not. So again, the Jewish religious community has a lot of unique strengths and a lot of unique vulnerabilities. Because again, if you're mostly around frum women, and you're mostly with men, and you're living in a secular world, and you have access to the internet, there's a tremendous temptation there. You're still a man. You're still, you're
and
still...
most men have dark desires.
Of course.
And most of those dark desires get suppressed.
And that's the purpose of Torah, right? Is to say, like, the purpose of a lot of religious prohibitions is to say, hey, man, don't trust yourself. Like, you hang out at a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Like, don't be around a lot of cleavage. Trust me, you're going to look. Yeah. Like, good luck not looking, So I get where that comes from. Again, everything is virtue and vice. Like, and I think that what a Jewish man or woman should do who is in a faith community of whatever level of faith community that they're in. And again, people are fluid. Like, I know people that are like, they were modern and then they had kids and now they get a little more conservative and then they kind of shift back and then they get really religious maybe, like when a parent dies or something else happens. People move around through Judaism has, like any faith, has tremendous room for people to move around. Like Christianity is the same thing. Like there's, fundamentalist Bible believing Christians. And then there's people that are like, what we just call 3 sprinkle jobs, like baptism, wedding, funeral. You get 3 things of holy water and that's it. You show up for church twice a year, So I think what you should be doing is not being afraid to say, how does my Judaism inform my quest for a mate, and how does it inform how I show up in a relationship and how I formulate a relationship? One of the beautiful things about people marrying within their faith is not just the preservation of culture, which I know for Jews is particularly important because you can't lose 6 million members of a faith and not feel like some sense of, okay, we got to make this back, so we got to get the numbers back up. But also that, there is a whole shared history and shared cultural traditions and shared, like even in the DNA of your family, even if they weren't religious, they were raised eating certain things, not eating certain things. They were raised celebrating holidays, certain holidays. Again, even if you have a differing level of observation for the holidays, like having that commonality with someone is a really lovely thing. Like my wife, my ex-wife, was not raised in a faith. And it was very difficult for us to find, because religion, I've always felt religion is not at its best when it's telling you what to think, but it's really good when it's telling you what to think about. It's really good at helping you ask interesting questions. It starts to fall apart when it tries to answer them. But it's good at asking you, like, hey, why don't you ask some interesting questions? Why are we here? How did we get here? What do we owe each other? What happens when we die? Why is there suffering in the world? Why is there pain? Why is there illness? Why would a loving God create evil? Like, God made the Holocaust. Why? He could have stopped it. Why didn't he? I don't believe that he just didn't show up or he was asleep that decade. Like, it has to have been for something, right? So we don't understand what it was. Like, we have to try to figure that out in some way as a species. Why do horrible things happen? Why does a loving God allow evil to exist? I think having someone in your life who shares some base definitions is good. So I've seen that. I've seen a lot of interfaith marriages that didn't really work. For that reason, largely, because people have a very differing core narrative. So again, I don't think marrying someone within your faith, whatever that faith may be, particularly Judaism though, because I have a lot of experience with that, is like a surefire indicator that it's going to work out. It's not. I'd be out of a job if it was. But I think it gives you some tools you can work with. But like any tool, like I give you a hammer, you can build things with it or you can break stuff with it. Like Judaism, the commonality of Judaism, the culture of Judaism, the values that Judaism espouses and is intended to elevate, can be a superpower, or they can be a weapon that you don't use the right ways.
Only you can turn a question into like this crazy commentary. Tying it back to the Holocaust, by the way.
I
Jim.
don't plan any of what I'm going to say. It just comes out.
You're just pure consciousness.
I just let it
You're
go.
just a vessel.
I don't even worry about it. Yeah. I very often don't remember what I said. I sometimes will listen. I'll tell you a funny secret. I don't always, but I sometimes listen after something has gone up, like that I've recorded. And I'll have it on in the background, like I do podcasts, and I'll be listening to it. And I'll hear something and I'll go, that's a good point. And I'm like, you're agreeing with yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're talking. Like you're not allowed to be like, that guy's got a good point. Like it's me. Like I made that point. That's not a guy made a point. That's your point. But I don't feel like it's just sort of, I don't want to say I'm channeling it, but it just is coming out of me. I don't really give a lot of thought to it, like I don't. Yeah. That's why when I came in, even in this conversation, as much as I love our friendship, like I generally try not to, like Andrew Huberman's a friend, Steve Bartlett's a friend, like these are guys I'm friends with. Mark Liotta from Software Underbelly has become a friend. And when we record together, like we just make a point of not talking beforehand. Because even if I'm like out in LA and I want to have dinner with any of those guys, I'll say like, let's not have dinner till after we record.
Yeah.
Because we'll just shoot our load completely off mic. So like when I walked in, it was like, all right, let's sit down, let's do it. Because we're going to have stuff coming out that like we want to share with people.
Yeah. Jim, I appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you too, man. I love you. I'm proud of you.
I want to acknowledge you because, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like there's very few examples for men to really look up to and admire. You're someone that I have so much respect for, so much admiration for.
That means so much to me. To be someone you admire feels like something to be very proud of, and it feels like something to continue to aspire to be worthy of. So I really appreciate that. Like your appreciation of me definitely helps me want to be a better man, and I think wanting to be a better man hopefully helps me be a better man. But you inspire me too. I think your excitement, your youth, your energy, your heterodox approach to things, the fact that you don't just take whatever people tell you is true. You inspire me too, and we make each other better, and I'm grateful for our friendship, and I'm really glad we could probably talk for 5 more hours and not run out of steam or things to say. So we'll do it again.
Really grateful for you,
man.
man.
Love you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, like even just, I'm just very grateful. I'm excited to continue growing this friendship.
Our journey.
And I'm always here for you, as you know.
I'm here for you too.
Bro, we almost hit 3 hours. That's insane.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yo, for everyone who made it to the end, like, thank you for your patience. Yeah. You definitely don't need Adderall.
Yeah, you don't if you made that.
Like, that's impressive. And we'll definitely link to everything that you have, your books. You have 2 books right now, right?
Yeah, I have, if you're in my office, It's Already Too Late, A Divorce Lawyer's Guide to Staying Together, How to Stay in Love is the paperback. And then the next book is coming out in 2027. I'm finishing it right now.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll link to the other 3 in the show notes.
Right on.
And, bro, you're a fucking legend.
You are too, man. Thank you.
And much love, everyone. Peace.
Take care.
Woo! Thank you so much for listening and watching and tuning into the podcast. You made it all the way to the end, and I just want to express my gratitude for your support. It genuinely means the world. Now, as I mentioned before, the thing that would mean the most to me is for you to just share this episode with your friends, with your loved ones on social media. Tag me if you have gained some sort of value or new perspective from this episode. And I can't wait for you to tune into the next one, because we're just going to keep growing. We're going to keep bringing on the best and brightest minds in the world. So thank you so much. And I'll see you next time on the Jeremy Awakens podcast. Much love.